Chapter 4757. I don't care who she is. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were chilly. Her narrow eyes were filled with an eerie chill. Your attitude towards me determines my attitude towards all of you. So what if she wanted to say something? Even grabbing her hand, trying to kill her? It was a threat to her life. Even if the Heavenly Emperor came, she would still beat her up. Are you looking for death? A newcomer dares to be so overbearing? The women's expressions turned ugly as they pointed at Yi Qing Luo and started scolding. If you don't let go of Sister Hong Mei, don't blame us for being impolite. It formed a sharp contrast with their alluring looks. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly as she gave them a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile. You make it sound as though you are very polite now. At the same time she looked at them. Yi Qing Luo was also considering their abilities. This was after all the god realm. It was the realm where the rumored god cultivators resided. Even if she had the confidence to protect herself. But if she could not create trouble, she preferred to use a harmonious method to settle things. She would try not to make a move if she could. She could tell. Hong Mei should be the leader of this group of women. Making use of Hong Mei's arrogance and contempt to settle Hong Mei in the shortest time possible. The other women would have misgivings because they were unable to guess her ability. Anyway, she had the jade pendant that the God Guard squad gave her. Even if those women's profound grades were above her, they were unable to see through her ability. Yi Qing Luo's plan was indeed not wrong. The women's expressions were extremely ugly, but looking at Hong Mei who was being stepped on by the young lady, whether it was because they couldn't see through the young lady's ability, or because they were worried about Hong Mei's life, they were indeed just threatening verbally. But no one dared to make a move. Hong Mei was also aware of this as she felt the foot stepping on her back increasing in strength as her face turned pale. If you don't let go of me, if my husband sees this, he will absolutely not let you off. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. Call that whatever husband of yours out. Who do you think you are? Do you think that your husband is someone you can meet whenever you want to? Even though Hong Mei was in a sorry state, but the words she said were still very stubborn. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as the smile on her lips deepened. Oh, then no one will be able to save you. She leaned forward slightly. Hong Mei only felt that the foot on her back was getting heavier and heavier. Then something cold pressed against her skin. Out of the corner of her eyes, Hong Mei vaguely saw a sharp blade. Her delicate body suddenly tensed up. You dare. You can try and see if I dare to. Yi Qing Luo's voice was very indifferent. If you dare to kill me, the acting divine emperor will not let you off. Hong Mei heard the indifference in the young girl's tone and immediately panicked. The acting Lord God Emperor is my uncle. You dare to treat me like this, the acting Lord God Emperor will definitely kill you. Acting divine emperor? Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. This woman was actually the niece of the acting divine emperor? No wonder he was so arrogant. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards. That's easy, get the acting God Emperor to come and see me. The acting God Emperor ordered someone to bring her to the God realm. But he inexplicably left her in the 100 Flower Gardens. Could it be that he wanted her to be like this bunch of women? To become a member of some man's harem? Who do you think you are? Is the acting Lord God Emperor someone you can meet whenever you want to? Hong Mei's heart was slightly shocked as she was shocked that the young lady actually had such a big tone. Chapter 4758. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly, between her picturesque eyebrows. There was a cold domineering aura. Really? Then do you think if I kill you, will the acting God Emperor appear for you? You dare. Hong Mei bared her teeth in anger. That beautiful face was distorted. She could tell that the young lady's words were not fake. This young lady was too arrogant. But what made Hong Mei's heart give birth to a feeling of horror was when she was being suppressed by the young lady. She was totally unable to struggle, as though her body was so stiff that she was unable to move. Hong Mei's heart sank as her pupils suddenly widened. What did you do to me? She actually reacted to the abnormality in her body? This young lady, when did she do something? Yi Qing Luo chuckled softly, her peerlessly beautiful face. This smile seemed to make the surrounding flowers lose their color, bright and beautiful. Don't worry, it's just to make you more obedient, of course. If you're not obedient. Her eyes congealed slightly, as her smile deepened a few degrees coldness. Then I'm sorry, you can only go and die. Hongmei's body suddenly tensed up, the expression on her face was distorted and sinister. And at this moment, not far away, suddenly two men's voices were heard. Why did you put her in the 100-flower garden for? We are all women, what are you afraid of? There are so many women in your garden. If you put her in that place, won't she be swallowed alive? What are you afraid of? The women in my 100-flower garden are all gentle like water. Naturally they will take good care of her. What kind of women in your garden? Don't you have any idea? I just brought her to God realm, and was hurriedly called away by you, so I can only casually put her in the 100-flower garden. Their voices were getting closer and closer. Very quickly, they saw two tall figures walking slowly in the midst of the flowers. There was also a voice clearly heard. That young lady entering this garden is too pitiful. What if she runs out and bumps into your bunch of women? She will probably be swallowed until nothing is left. The word was forcibly choked in his throat. That man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The exquisite embroidery showed his nobility. The astonishment on the young man's face was obvious. He stared unblinkingly at the scene in front of him, unable to believe his eyes. Behind the man, another figure dressed in a flashy pink robe also walked over. You. Husband. The group of beautiful women swarmed towards that figure. Each and every one of their voices were soft and tender. The women threw themselves into the man's embrace and sobbed. Husband, you've come to seek justice for us. Don't cry, don't cry. When you cry, your husband's heart is broken. The man hugged the surrounding women and comforted them gently. Yiqing Luo. Where the hell did this peacock come from? This was the first time she had seen a man wearing pink. Furthermore, it was the pinkish pink color. It was extremely coquettish. However, the man's androgynous face, coupled with the coquettish powder, did not look too feminine at all. Such a flirtatious peacock. No wonder he had such a harem. However, this man was really fickle. He clearly saw Hongmei being trampled under his feet. Yet he could still use a gentle voice to appease the other women, and hug them left and right, as if he could not see Hongmei at all. Evaluation. Scumbag. Chapter 4759. Took in a harem with 3,000 beauties. He was indeed a scumbag. Yiqing Luo sized up the two men who suddenly appeared in front of her. They were also sizing up Yiqing Luo. The rosy pink man's gaze paused on Yiqing Luo's face for several breaths before his eyes lit up. Beauty. He speedily pushed the few people in his arms to one side as he gave a self-admitted flirtatious smile. You're Yiqing Luo. That gaze made Yiqing Luo had an impulse to beat someone up. She frowned. Who are you? What are you pretending to be silly for? Hongmei, who was being stepped on, suddenly opened her mouth. That's our husband. Her tone revealed a sliver of complacency. Husband is here, you're dead meat. Saying that, she raised her head and looked at the man not too far away. Husband, save me. This slut wants to kill me. Finally, that rosy pink man shifted his gaze downwards onto Hongmei. His exquisite brows creased unabashedly. What are you doing? The rosy pink man's face sunk slightly. When Hongmei saw that, she immediately cried even more grievously. Husband, this new slut. She poisoned me and even attempted to kill me. The rosy pink man, that pair of flirtatious eyes, looked towards Yiqing Luo. The women by the side chimed in. Husband, you don't know how arrogant this newcomer is. Not only did she not put us, this group of sisters, in her eyes, Sister Hongmei only wanted to teach her the rules, but she. The women were all talking at once, pushing all the problems to Yiqing Luo. Hongmei's eyes were misty with tears, as she cried quietly in grievance. She was very clear. Her husband couldn't stand a woman's tears. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those women, no matter how they splashed dirty water on her. She couldn't be bothered to explain. She stared at the rosy pink man and frowned. You're the husband they're talking about? If little beauty wants to call me husband, I won't mind. The rosy pink man smiled as he opened his mouth. There was no trace of anger towards Yiqing Luo, because of those women's words. The man next to him elbowed the flirtatious man in pink and glared at him with a warning look. What did you bring me to this place for? Yi Qing Luo went straight to the point. The man in the pink robe was full of smiles. Beautiful scenery with beautiful women. However, compared to the beautiful scenery of the 100 flower gardens, this little beauty is even more beautiful. Yi Qing Luo's foot, which was stepping on Hong Mei's back, suddenly exerted force. Hong Mei screamed in pain. The girl's eyes were clear and cold. Don't talk nonsense. Call the captain of the Divine Guardian Squad over. He had brought her to the God realm, but had inexplicably thrown her here. Another two baffling people had arrived. What the hell is this place? Where was the noble and unattainable image of the God realm? Disillusioned, okay? The flirtatious pink-colored man's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with overflowing interest. The God's Guardian Squad has handed you over to me, so if you have any matters, just look for me. Yi Qing Luo. Could she make a move and beat this peacock into submission first? The man dressed in bamboo on the side coughed lightly. Miss Yi, we don't have any ill intentions. Let go of Hong Mei first. Not letting go. She was afraid that if she let go of this foot, the next one would land on that flirtatious peacock. The man dressed in bamboo looked slightly more serious. Actually, we don't have any ill intentions. He continued. I'm the acting God Emperor's last disciple, Feng Changqing. This is my friend, and also one of the 3 kings in the God realm, Ji Wuhua, Flower King. Chapter 4760. A coquettish peacock was indeed a coquettish peacock. Even his name was so coquettish. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as her gaze fell onto Ji Wuhua. You said to look for you? Being stared at by that pair of seductive eyes of the beauty, Ji Wuhua's bewitching eyes were filled with splendor. That's right, it's me. Beauty, please look at me and tell me your request. He didn't wait for Yi Qing Luo to open her mouth. The next sentence was blurted out. Even if you want the position of my official wife, and want me to disperse the flowers for you, I'm also willing. His eyes were burning, and his expression was as deep as the ocean. But there wasn't a single bit of sincerity in that tone. Apparently, this kind of words were often hung on his lips. But those few bewitching little flowers behind were struck by Ji Wuhua's words. Each of them called out husband in a tender manner as they shed tears of grievance. Whereas Hong Mei, who was stepped on the ground, had an incredulous expression in her eyes. She was stepped on by this slut, in such a wretched state. Her beloved husband didn't care about her at all, and was even infatuated with this slut. She was like a fool. Scram. Yi Qing Luo stared coldly at Ji Wuhua's androgynous face as she raised her hand. If you don't leave, I'll smash your dog head. Ji Wuhua was stunned on the spot. It was as if there had never been a woman who could show such a look of disgust under his affectionate confession. Moreover, the expression on her face didn't seem to be playing hard to get, or was it a joke? But really, if he didn't retreat further, she would really beat him up. This knowledge caused a trace of cold light to flash in the depths of Ji Wuhua's devilish eyes. The few women behind him were also astonished. There was actually someone who dared to be fierce to their husband. That slut, was she looking for death? But that slut was so fierce. Their husband definitely wouldn't like that slut. But their husband didn't have any intention of getting angry. Instead, he cooperated and shifted his feet backwards, pulling the distance between him and Yi Qing Luo. Bring me to see the acting God Emperor. Yi Qing Luo looked at him as she said every single word clearly. It's not convenient for the acting Divine Emperor to meet guests now, Ji Wuhua replied. When the acting Divine Emperor summons you, I'll take you there. Oh, Yi Qing Luo replied indifferently. Ji Wuhua was still puzzled. Why was this girl so cooperative? The young lady's voice sounded again. Then send me back to the Earth realm. When the acting God Emperor is free, come to the Earth realm to see me. Was he trying to take her down a notch? He had brought her all the way to the God realm. Now he stood her up again. Did he think that he was great just because he was the acting Divine Emperor? She was the daughter of the former Divine Emperor. 10,000 years ago, she could be considered as the heir to the throne of the Divine Emperor. Even the acting God Emperor, had to address her as great-grandmother when he saw her now. See or not? Who didn't know how to put on airs? The girl's words once again stunned the people in the garden. Ji Wuhua and Feng Zhangqing had not expected that this young girl, who looked a little fierce, would say such bold words. Let the acting god emperor meet her personally in the earth realm? Although the acting god emperor hadn't officially inherited the divine emperor's throne, but in the hearts of the people in the god realm, the acting god emperor had long been the real god emperor. Usually, even if the acting god emperor asked them to wait for a day and a night, they would still wait quietly on the spot. Wasn't this young lady's tone too arrogant? Chapter 47-61. As for the other beautiful ladies, as they stared at Yiqing Luo, their eyes were filled with astonishment as they stood rooted to the ground. Did they hear it wrongly? This young lady was not their husband's new sweetheart, but a distinguished guest whom the acting god emperor wanted to meet? Moreover, this young lady's arrogance didn't even seem to be afraid of the acting god emperor. That was a kind of arrogance that emanated from her bones. A natural arrogance that didn't feel exaggerated at all. But what shocked them even more was, this young lady came from the earth realm to the god realm. Even the heaven realm was like an ant that could be pinched to death with a flick of a finger. Not to mention the realm below the heaven realm. Even if they were a group of chess pieces that had been trained since young to please men and seek benefits for the family, any one of them would be able to fight against 100 in the lower realms. It was imaginable. The gap between the god realm and the lower realm. But this young lady came from the earth realm, that lowly realm, to the god realm. A young lady from the earth realm had stepped on their red plum boss. Someone from the earth realm? Did they hear it wrongly? Or did the young lady say it wrongly? Unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. But the next moment, Feng Zhangqing's words had confirmed the young lady's identity. Miss Yi, the passage between the earth realm and the god realm can't be opened at will, and the distance between the two realms is very far. If the acting god emperor is done with his work and wants to see you, he will have to go to the earth realm to invite you. Going back and forth will delay your time. Don't you think so? Yiqing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her eyes were lazy and indifferent. I'm also very busy, all right? Only the acting god emperor is busy and I'm not allowed to be busy? Miss Yi, the acting god emperor doesn't mean to make things difficult for you. Feng Zhangqing's thin lips were tightly pursed as his handsome face revealed traces of helplessness. Don't beat around the bush. Ji Wuhua pushed Feng Zhangqing away and smiled like a peacock. Beauty, you really can't blame the acting god emperor. You can only blame yourself. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and looked at Ji Wuhua with an expression that said, continue to make up stories, I'll listen quietly to your story. Ji Wuhua made an oath. Yesterday, the acting divine emperor postponed all matters and waited for you to discuss the war between the heaven and earth realm. However, we neglected the fact that you have just entered the divine world, and you are not used to the spiritual energy of the divine world, causing you to lose consciousness. The acting divine emperor couldn't bear to wake you up, so he let you rest for a day. So this was her fault? Seeing that the girl's expression was still indifferent, Ji Wuhua said sincerely, everything I said is true. Yiqing Luo squinted at his raised 3 fingers. Your god realm also plays this kind of oath trick? Wasn't the oath meant for God to see? Weren't the people of the god realm gods? Ji Wuhua said matter-of-factly, because you women love this kind of trick the most. Yiqing Luo. Sorry, I don't like it. However, Ji Wuhua's explanation was indeed reasonable. It was a fact that she had slept all day. How many days do I have to stay in the god realm? She asked. Ji Wuhua glanced at Feng Zhangqing and stopped him from speaking. Then he looked at Yiqing Luo smilingly. Not much, about 10 days to half a month. Yiqing Luo. Forget it, you'd better send me back to the earth realm. 10 days to half a month. Wait till she returned to the earth realm. The daylilies were already cold. There were still a lot of matters in the earth realm waiting for her to settle. Chapter 47-62. Feng Zhangqing pressed his hand on Ji Wuhua's shoulder and pulled him behind him. Don't listen to his nonsense. When the acting divine emperor is done with his business, he will see you. It will take at least a few hours, and at most a day or two. Yi Qingluo raised her brows. Then I shall reluctantly agree to it. She could still accept this time. At most, he would just treat it as a day trip to the God realm. In any case, he was someone who had been to the God realm. She could brag about this for years in the lower realm. Yi Qingluo's gaze swept past those ladies who were in a daze and suddenly thought of something. But, I have a condition. Speak. Feng Zhangqing nodded. Yi Qingluo took a look at Ji Wuhua, and then looked at the person under her feet. I don't live in 100 flower gardens. What's wrong with this place? Ji Wuhua was unhappy. This is my proudest design. The environment is good and the scenery is beautiful. Why don't you stay here? Yi Qingluo spat out a few words in a lukewarm manner. Not good in any way. Feng Zhangqing coughed lightly and said, Miss Yi, forgive me for not being able to agree to this condition. Don't tell me the God realm only has one place to entertain foreign guests? Yi Qingluo frowned and raised her delicate chin. Feng Zhangqing sighed softly. The fact that Miss Yi has come to the God world is a secret to the outside world. If others in the God world find out that a person from a lower world has come to the God world, I'm afraid those stubborn old fogies of the God world who think themselves to be virtuous will not let this matter rest. Yi Qingluo. So she was a stowaway? Do I have to hide in the God realm and wait for the acting God Emperor to summon me? Wasn't this a little too aggrieved? In the entire God realm, Wuhua's territory is the safest. Otherwise, Wuhua wouldn't have sent you here in the first place. Feng Zhangqing continued to explain. But at most one day, Miss Yi, please bear with it for the time being. Yi Qingluo. I can't take it anymore. This place was the flower peacock's harem garden. Who knew how many imperial concubines were in this garden? If she stays here any longer, every 2 to 4 hours he would have to fight with his harem team. She was not in the mood to explain again and again that there was no relationship between her and Ji Wuhua. He was too lazy to explain. Most importantly, putting her together with this peacock to create a scandal? That would lower his status, alright? She was ugly. But the very last, Yi Qingluo still compromised. Because Ji Wuhua was too annoying. It was so annoying that she couldn't help but want to strangle this peacock to death. Yi Qingluo directly stuffed Hong Mei into Ji Wuhua's arms, gagging his mouth. Then he turned around and left. Beauty, what are you? Before the dumbfounded Ji Wuhua could finish his words, Yi Qingluo had already shut her room's door with a paw sound. All over his body he sent out a message. My mood is exploding, don't bother me. Ji Wuhua was blocked outside the door. He stared blankly at Feng Changqing and said, Changqing, have I become uglier? Isn't it tempting enough? As he spoke he touched his face full of worry. Feng Zhangqing didn't even bother to look at him. It's done. Let's go. This was the first time Ji Wuhua had suffered a setback. He cried dejectedly. I don't believe that my face has lost its limits. I'm a man who relies on his face to make a living. Ji Wuhua turned around abruptly, looking at those few charming and enchanting imperial concubines. The corner of his mouth immediately revealed an incomparably demonic smile. Ladies, did you miss me? Chapter 4763. That smile caused the originally frightened beauties to blush, and their mouths began to emit sweet moans. One by one, they flew toward Ji Wuhua. Husband, we missed you so much. You haven't come to see us for a long time. Husband, the sisters have been waiting for you. Do you want to stay in the 100 garden today? Husband, several charming women swarmed toward Ji Wuhua. No one paid any attention to Hong Mei, who was lying on the ground with a face full of resentment. All of them painstakingly moved closer to Ji Wuhua. He wanted to make Ji Wuhua stay. Ji Wuhua contentedly regained his pride as a peacock in front of this group of women. He waved his hand and said, Changqing and I still have some matters to attend to. You guys stay in the 100 flower garden. He paused for a moment before continuing. As for Miss Yi just now, if you don't have any urgent matters, don't go to the east courtyard to disturb her. Yes. The women were somewhat reluctant, but they did not dare to force Ji Wuhua to stay, so they obediently lowered their eyes and responded, Feng Zhangqing glanced at Hongmei on the ground and said, "Send Miss Hongmei back to her courtyard, and find someone to give her a good look." The women? Yes. The 100-flower garden fell into silence again. The news that a woman, who was not Ji Wuhua's new lover, had come to the 100 garden and moved into the 100 garden had spread like wildfire. Especially when they heard that the new girl had beaten up their boss, Hongmei, until he was bedridden. He was very curious about the new girl. But due to Ji Wuhua's orders, no one dared to approach the east courtyard to get close to the new girl. They could only discuss and guess the other party's identity. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was being discussed by everyone, was cooped up in her room, feeling extremely bored. Judging from Feng Changqing's words just now, he probably wouldn't give her the chance to go out for a stroll. After all, she was a stowaway. If someone from the other god realms were to find out, that would be troublesome. It was rare for him to come to the immortal world. He would be trapped in the god realm for a few more hours. He could only stay in this 100-flower garden. Yiqing Luo expressed her innermost feelings. There was nothing to do. Yiqing Luo might as well regulate the profound energy within her body. He couldn't possibly come here for nothing and spend his days in a daze, right? This was the god realm. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the divine world was abundant and pure. It was a good place for cultivation. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth within the 100-flower garden began to gather in her direction. He meditated for about 2 hours. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt a gust of extremely strong spiritual qi, coming from a certain direction, swiftly sweeping over. Yiqing Luo was reminded by Old Man Song. He reacted in time. He retracted his aura. When she opened her eyes, she saw that her room was filled with a large amount of pure and powerful spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, it was too powerful. If he absorbed it by force, her body might not be able to withstand such a load. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as she felt that something was strange. Why was there suddenly so much spiritual energy? Furthermore, it had suddenly appeared. That heaven and earth qi is somewhat familiar. Old Man Song's puzzled voice rang out in Yiqing Luo's mind. Familiar? I have a feeling that I have sensed this kind of aura somewhere before. Old Man Song couldn't recall the specific details. He could only vaguely feel that it was familiar. Yiqing Luo slid down from the bed. Let's go over and take a look and you will know. This is the god realm. You must be careful in everything. Old Man Song reminded. Chapter 4764. Yiqing Luo headed towards the direction where the heaven and earth's spiritual qi was surging from. That aura was extremely dense. It seemed to fill the entire courtyard. Yiqing Luo searched for a while. Only then did he confirm that the spiritual energy came from the bookshelf in her room. Based on experience, she fumbled on the bookshelf for a long time. Only then did he find a mechanism. The bookshelf suddenly moved to the side. A deep, pitch-black hole was hidden behind a bookshelf. A long flight of stairs spiraled into the darkness. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. This is a secret room. The secret room in the 100 garden? She didn't expect that the room she was staying in was actually a completely different world. Strangely, she even found out about it. Logically speaking, Ji Wuhua knew that there was a secret room in this room. They shouldn't let an outsider like her stay here, right? He was too confident in himself. Or was he looking down on her, thinking that she wouldn't be able to detect it? The moment the bookshelf moved over, compared to before, the profound waves were even more intense. It was as if it wanted to drown her completely. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly. Girl, don't be impulsive. Old Man Song had some misgivings. This is the god realm. The secret room in the god realm is too dangerous. Yiqing Luo's expression was grave, as though she was pondering over something. Hearing Old Man Song's words, she smiled. I know. She looked deeply at the passage. But since the acting divine emperor wants to see me and Ji Wuhua arranged for me to be in this passage, he should be sure of my safety. She pursed her lips slightly. I'll go in and take a look. If there's any danger, I'll use the teleportation secret technique to leave this place. Old Man Song was very clear that once Yiqing Luo had decided on something, it would not be easily changed. In the end, he could only sigh and say, "Be careful." In the pitch-black cave, one couldn't even see their own fingers. The air was still a little damp. It was cold and gloomy. Yiqing Luo didn't take out the luminous pearl for illumination. Just like that, he walked forward in the darkness. Walking in the tunnel, Yiqing Luo was almost certain that no one had stepped into this tunnel for a very long time. Because when he stepped into the middle section of the tunnel, it was a flat passageway. The smell of lamp oil could be smelled all around. Moreover, it had been a long time. Following the passageway, they made many turns. Other than the unpleasant smell, there was no danger in the tunnel. The further they went, the fluctuation of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth became stronger and denser. Then, he felt a gust of wind blowing in front of him. It was the end. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked towards the direction where the wind was blowing. Not long after, he saw a ray of clear light shooting over. Following the light, he saw an exit that could accommodate one person. Yiqing Luo wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he stood at the exit and looked outside vigilantly. After confirming that there was no one around, he quietly crawled out from the exit. This exit was built behind a group of artificial mountains. Yiqing Luo's surroundings were not only surrounded by 3 to 4 fake mountains, but also in the middle of a huge lake. There was water in all directions. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. She did not know where she was. Or perhaps it was somewhere in the 100-flower garden. He only knew that this place had a beautiful environment and was extremely luxurious and rich. These artificial mountains were all carved from the finest jade and could almost be mistaken for the real thing. Clusters of flowers, lush and lush. This kind of beautiful scenery was not something that could be formed overnight. After Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings and confirmed that there was no one else around, she took a deep breath and leaped up from behind the artificial mountains. Chapter 4765. The fiery red dress in midair swept away a ray of sunset glow, perfectly landed, standing in one of the winding corridors of the lake. Just as she stood firm, both her legs were hugged by something. She heard a crisp child's voice coming from below. "Fairy sister! Fairy sister!" Yiqing Luo was startled at first, her eyes filled with vigilance. After hearing this voice, her brows overflowed with some astonishment. As soon as she looked down, she saw a jade-carved little guy who was hugging her legs tightly. The little one was really very small. He looked like he was only 5 or 6 years old. Not even as high as her legs. The little one, when hugging her, looking up at her, was extremely adorable. But where did this little thing come from? She had just confirmed that there was no one around. And this little child, how could she leave him by the lake? What if he fell into the water? "Fairy sister, why don't you speak?" The little one tilted his little head, his voice crisp and clear. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly. "Let go of me first." Not letting go. The little one shook his head seriously. "If Cici let go of Fairy sister will run away." Yiqing Luo rubbed his little head. It was furry and soft. Towards children, she didn't hate them, but neither did she like them. After all, such a soft, delicate little one. It seemed that a little force might make him cry. But this little one in front of her made her inexplicably soften all her emotions. She pulled the little one's hand. "I won't run away." "Zunzun, really?" The little one pursed his little lips, looking at her suspiciously. Yiqing Luo revealed a smile. "Cici looks so cute. How can I bear to lie to you?" The little one's hands that were hugging her legs slowly loosened, but his fingers were still clutching the hem of her skirt. The restraint on both legs was loosened. Yiqing Luo half squatted down, facing the little one. She placed both hands on the little one's shoulders. "See, I didn't lie to you, right? Elder sister fairy, you're so pretty. You're even prettier than those sisters in my grandfather's family." The little guy blinked his eyes and stared at her face without blinking. Yiqing Luo smiled as she rubbed his head. "Thank you, Cici, for your compliment. Cici looks very good too." Because Cici and Fairy sister look alike. Tiny One pointed at his own face and pointed at Yiqing Luo. "We both look good." Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. This little guy was actually saying in a roundabout way that he was good-looking. She picked him up and looked around. Why are you here alone? Don't you have an adult with you? The little guy hooked his little hands around her neck and shook his head with a sad expression. Cece doesn't have a mother. No mother? A single-parent child? She had just heard him mention grandpa. Could it be that he had lived with his grandfather since he was young? Yiqing Luo gave birth to a sliver of tenderness towards this little one as her voice became much gentler. Then, where is Cece's maternal grandfather? Elder sister will bring you to find him, okay? The little one drooped his head and shook it. Cece doesn't like grandpa. Grandpa always forces Cece to do things that Cece doesn't like to do, so Cece sneaked out today. Poor little guy. He had no parents since he was young, and lived together with his strict and rigid maternal grandfather. For a child, it was indeed unbearable. The little one suddenly raised his little head, blinking his bright eyes full of hope. You are elder sister fairy, can you bring me to find my mother? Chapter 4766. Yiqing Luo was stunned, looking at the little one's hopeful eyes. Her throat was suddenly blocked. She couldn't bear to let this little one down. She smiled and asked softly, Cece, do you know where your mother is? The little one's head drooped down again. I don't know. Yiqing Luo rubbed her little head and comforted. Cece, why don't you take me to your grandfather first? I'll ask him where your mother is, okay? The little one pursed his lips. His face was full of unwillingness. Grandfather won't say. Whenever Cece mentions mother, grandfather will be very angry and force Cece to do things Cece doesn't want to do. Cece doesn't like grandfather. The little one's tone was full of grievance. His little hand clutched Yiqing Luo's clothes. Fairy sister, don't send me to grandfather, okay? As he spoke, the little one's eyes turned red, looking like he was about to cry. Yiqing Luo quickly coaxed. Okay, I won't send you. What kind of little ancestor did she have? Just when she was holding the little one, she was at a loss. Suddenly, a panicked voice came from behind him. Io, my young master, why did you come here alone? Following that, a few hurried footsteps could be heard, and they were rushing over. Yiqing Luo turned around and saw an old woman in her 50s, her face full of anxiety. Yiqing Luo could tell at a glance that the old woman's clothes were all made of good quality fabric. It could be seen that this old woman's status was not low. When the old woman came closer and saw Yiqing Luo, her face suddenly changed. Who are you? She ran over hurriedly and saw the little master being carried by a young girl. She thought it was one of the family's maids. But this face, she had no impression at all. The old woman immediately became vigilant, and reached out to hold the little one. But the little one hugged Yiqing Luo's neck tightly and refused to let go. Granny Feng, this is Cece's fairy sister, the fairy sister who wants to take Cece to mother. The little one put his head on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, and refused to be hugged by the old woman. The old lady stared vigilantly at Yiqing Luo, and then looked at the young master who was leaning on the young lady. Her heart was burning with anxiety. But he was afraid of alerting the enemy and hurting his own young master, so he could only look at Yiqing Luo cautiously. Miss, who are you? Why are you at the Feng mansion? The security of the Phoenix mansion was so tight that even a fly couldn't fly in. This girl. How did he get in? Feng Manor? Isn't this the 100-flower garden? How did it become a Phoenix mansion? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with doubts, but she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she sent the little guy in her arms to the old woman. In the future, don't let a child run to this kind of place. It's very easy to fall into the water. The old lady trembled as she stretched out her hand to receive Tiny Tot. As she stared at Yiqing Luo with vigilance and cautiousness. Miss. Then you. No, I don't want that. Just as the old woman was about to hug the little guy, Xiao Budian suddenly resisted violently. He flailed his limbs about. I don't want to go back with you. I want fairy sister. The little guy was very emotional. Tears welled up in his red eyes. He cried and howled as he struggled. He accidentally kicked the old woman's body. The old woman originally listened to the little master's agitated emotions and wholeheartedly threw herself onto the little master. This kick came down. She couldn't stand properly. Her body staggered and fell into the lake at the side. Chapter 4767. Be careful. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and pulled the old lady. The little one in her arms was still kicking her legs agitatedly, totally unaware of the trouble she had caused. Yiqing Luo stabilized the old lady, but the momentum made her body unstable as she fell towards the other side of the lake. Little master. The old lady rushed forward in shock, but it was too late. Yiqing Luo fell into the lake along with the little one. Water splashed everywhere. The moment Yiqing Luo fell into the water, she quickly lifted the little one up. The little one didn't look big, but he was quite heavy. Yiqing Luo was somewhat strained. She managed to climb to the side of the lake and sent the little one ashore. The old lady immediately hugged the little one. Little master, are you all right? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Let Granny take a look. The little one was well protected by Yiqing Luo. Other than his clothes being wet, there was no other discomfort. The old lady then felt relieved and hugged the little one tightly. The little one broke away from the old lady and looked at Yiqing Luo with a face full of worry. Fairy sister, are you all right? The old lady then turned her attention to Yiqing Luo. She saw a disheveled Yiqing Luo standing on the shore, twisting her wet robe. Although she was vigilant, but after all she was the one who saved the little master. She said softly, Young lady, do you want to follow the little master back to his room and change his clothes? Look at the little master's attitude towards this lady. She was afraid that the young lady wouldn't follow. The little master wouldn't obediently change into clean clothes. Moreover, this lady's background was unknown. It would be safer to keep her by her side and let someone check her identity. Yiqing Luo naturally saw through the old lady's plan. She was just about to refuse, but her sleeve was held tightly by the little one. He had a "if you don't follow me, I won't change my clothes" attitude. Yiqing Luo's heart softened and sighed softly. Then I'll have to trouble Granny. Forget it. She didn't have time to bring other clothes to the god realm. Even if she returned to the 100 flower gardens, he was also soaking wet. She might as well follow them to change her clothes. He would wait for an opportunity to slip away. In any case, there seemed to be only this old woman and this little guy in this mansion. The old woman wanted to hug the little guy. However, Xiao Budian kicked his little legs and jumped to the ground. Then he grabbed one of Yiqing Luo's fingers and walked beside her. The old lady apologized in a low voice. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she lowered her eyes to look at the little one beside her, feeling an inexplicable warmth in her heart. An adult and a child held hands as they walked forward. Water droplets fell from their bodies. On the porcelain tiles that were laid out, it was like a blossoming splash. Not far away, behind the rockery, a few black figures slowly walked out from the darkness, staring at the direction where Yiqing Luo left. The black-clothed man at the very front said in a low voice, "Proceed according to the original plan." Yes. The old woman brought her to the little guy's room. First, he helped Tiny Tot change his wet clothes. He then went to the other rooms to search for suitable clothes for Yiqing Luo. Fortunately, the weather was hot. Yiqing Luo didn't feel cold at all. After a while, the old woman walked over with a set of clothes. The southern hall of the Phoenix Manor hasn't had any lady staying in for many years. This is little master. She looked at the smiling Xiao Budian. She stopped what she was about to say and changed her words. These are clothes left behind by my previous master. I hope Miss doesn't mind. Chapter 4768. The clothes in the old lady's hands looked very new. It was a bright red, like a blooming rose. The exquisite embroidery made the flowers look lifelike. It looked graceful and luxurious. Ordinary people couldn't control this kind of beauty at all. Yiqing Luo took the clothes. The touch was very light and soft. The fabric was made of high-quality silk. When Yiqing Luo changed into this red dress, even the old lady couldn't help but reveal a stunned look. She knew that this young lady was beautiful, but she didn't expect that after changing into this luxurious dress with complicated embroidery, the whole person seemed to be even more outstanding. The luxurious long dress couldn't suppress the young lady's bright and dazzling beauty, especially that pair of long and narrow charming eyes. under this luxurious red dress, seemed to be rippling with flowing lights. Fairy sister. You look so good. The little guy suddenly pounced forward and hugged Yiqing Luo's leg. He raised his head and stared at her unblinkingly with his delicate jade-like face. His eyes were filled with sincerity and love for her. Yiqing Luo bent over and gently rubbed the little guy's head. Next time by the lake, don't fool around, do you hear me? I hear you. The little guy nodded obediently. Yiqing Luo rubbed again. Good boy. The smile on the young lady's face was very bright and gentle. Even the contours of the face were extremely soft and charming. The old lady kept staring at Yiqing Luo, trying to see through her purpose. But on the young lady, the old lady couldn't feel any malicious intent at all. Yiqing Luo knew that the old lady was suspicious of her identity. She patted the little guy's head lightly. Cici, sister is a little hungry. The little guy immediately turned his head to the old lady. The old lady hesitated for a moment. Then she heard the young lady said with a smile, Sister wants to eat Cici's things. Can Cici share with sister? The little guy's eyes lit up immediately. Fairy sister, wait here for Cici. Cici will be here soon. Saying that, he kicked his little legs and ran outside. The old lady whispered behind him, Be careful, don't run on the long corridor. Until the little guy's figure went into the next room. The old woman returned to the inner hall. On his face, it was no longer the benevolence and gentleness he had when facing Xiao Budian, but vigilance and coldness. Who exactly are you? Why did he appear in the Feng manor? What's the purpose of getting close to the young master? My name is Yiqing Luo and I stay at the 100 Flower Gardens. Yiqing Luo didn't hide anything. However, as for how she had passed through the secret passage of the 100 Flower Garden and arrived at this so-called Feng manor, naturally, she couldn't say it out loud. He blinked his eyes innocently and shook his head innocently. To be honest, I'm not too sure why I'm here either. It's just that when I opened my eyes, I was already beside the lake. Coincidentally, I was hugged by Cici. This explanation was obviously very far-fetched. How could he have arrived at the Feng mansion just by opening his eyes? However, looking at the innocent expression on the girl's face, he swallowed the question that was on the tip of his tongue. Yiqing Luo. Why do I feel that this name is so familiar? Wait a minute, 100 Garden? You are the Flower King's new pet? The old woman was confused. Staring at Yiqing Luo, there were some traces of pity in his eyes. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No, I'm just staying at the 100 Flower Gardens temporarily. The girls who stay at the 100 Flower Gardens are all the Flower King's women, especially a beautiful girl like you. The old woman obviously didn't believe it. Chapter 4769. As far as Ji Wuhua was concerned, Wild Sam Literature Network such a beautiful lady. How could he let it go? Since she lived in the 100 Flower Garden, how could she not be Flower King's woman? Wait, that's not the point. The old lady looked serious. The 100 Flower Garden is in the south of the city and the north of the city. They are quite far away from each other. Moreover, the Phoenix residence is heavily guarded. How did you open your eyes and appear in the Phoenix residence? I also want to ask you the same question. Yiqing Luo looked helpless. I wouldn't be surprised if I knew. She sighed and said, Cici was the first to discover me. You can ask Cici if I appeared in the Phoenix manor out of thin air. Otherwise, why would Cici suddenly call me fairy sister? The old lady looked serious. She pondered for a moment and said, No matter if what you said is true or not, I can only ask you to stay in the Phoenix residence and wait for Flower King to pick you up. Yiqing Luo. Was this illegal imprisonment? And she had to ask Ji Wuhua, that peacock, to redeem her? That secret passage was obviously Ji Wuhua's doing. Ji Wuhua came. Didn't he know that she had found out about the secret passage? This was her first day in the God realm. Did she have to make such a big fuss? However, looking at the old woman's face, although there was nothing special about her, her eyes were filled with a cold and sharp light. She paused and said, Thank you, Granny. She believed. If she refused, this old woman would definitely use a very rude method to forcefully detain her in the Feng manor. Now she agreed. At least she could be treated politely. And she could still move freely. But she had to think of a way to get back to the 100-flower garden before Ji Wuhua came. Thump. Suddenly, there was a slight noise from the next room. Something hit the ground. The old lady's expression changed and called out anxiously, "Young master." He hurriedly walked toward the room next door. When she left the room, she didn't forget to lock the door. Yi Qingluo. Did she really treat her as a prisoner? Couldn't she follow her to check on Tiny? Why did she have to be locked up? However, the old woman had already hurried to the next room. He was worried about the little guy's safety. She gave up and did not ask the old woman to open the door. He casually pulled a chair and sat down in front of the round mahogany table. She poured herself a cup of tea and waited quietly for the old woman. About the time it took to burn a stick of incense, Yi Qingluo heard a squeaking sound. The sound of the room door being opened. Is Cece all right? Granny Feng, I heard that Cece fell into the water. What happened? Two voices sounded at the same time. The sounds overlapped. It was a young girl with a clear and melodious voice. It was a rough and dignified male voice, which was obviously the demeanor of a superior. Both sides were startled. When Yi Qingluo turned back, what entered her eyes was a dignified and handsome face. He was dressed in a navy blue brocade robe with complicated patterns, looking noble and dignified. He looked to be in his 50s. His temples were white, but he was hale and spirited. That pair of black and burning eyes flashed with an elite sharpness. That straight and handsome face. Inexplicably, there was an extreme sense of familiarity. But the other party was staring at Yi Qingluo's face without blinking. The old man's face was filled with disbelief, shock and astonishment. In the end, even his body started to tremble slightly. It's you. The old man spoke in a trembling voice. Tears welled up in his eyes as he took slightly trembling steps towards Yi Qingluo. Chapter 4770. Fengge. It's you. It's you, you're back. The elderly's hands held Yi Qingluo's hands. He used a lot of strength. Yi Qingluo wanted to struggle, but felt the trembling of the elderly's hands and the heat in his palms. She couldn't bear to do this, especially when she saw the elderly's old tears, calling out Fengge word by word. Yi Qingluo's heart seemed to be stabbed by something, fiercely. She allowed the elderly to grab her. The elderly's old tears flowed as he muttered to himself. The large palms which held Yi Qingluo's hands trembled even more. Just at this moment, hurried footsteps were heard from outside the door. The old lady's slightly bewildered voice rang from outside the door. "Miss, what did you say your name earlier? I remember, where did I hear your name?" When the old lady stepped into the room and saw the scene in the room, the expression on her face congealed instantly. Following that, she bowed respectfully, "Patriarch." The old lady's voice when she barged in earlier was very loud. It made the elderly, who was in tears, suddenly awakened. He stared blankly at Yi Qingluo, as his eyes seemed to be surging with some emotions. "You." The elderly, who had calmed down, slowly let go of Yi Qingluo's hands. "No. You're not Fengge. You're not my Xiaoge. Fengge was already dead. Long dead. Ma Patriarch, why are you here?" The old lady's tone was slightly apprehensive. The elderly slowly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. "Granny Feng, what's going on? Where did she come from?" Although the elderly's words were directed at the old lady, but his eyes were still fixated on Yi Qingluo without blinking, as though afraid that she would shift her gaze, as though she would disappear. That gaze made Yi Qingluo's heart ache. "Patriarch." The old lady took a look at the elderly and lowered her head uncertainly. I'm not too sure." She told him how she saw Yi Qingluo, in a concise and comprehensive manner. Following that, she asked hesitantly, "Patriarch, you know? This lady." This was the first time she saw the patriarch losing his composure like that. And thinking back to her own guess, the expression on the old lady's face became even more solemn. "What did you say her name was just now?" The old man finally shifted his gaze and looked at the old woman. The old lady took a look at Yi Qing Luo and immediately suppressed the various thoughts in her heart as she said word by word. Replying to Patriarch, "This young lady's name is Yi Qing Luo." This old servant had once heard this name from Patriarch's mouth. Qing Qing Luo. The old man's body stiffened again. The redness in her eyes, which she had just suppressed, immediately turned sour again. His trembling hand, bit by bit, moved towards Yi Qing Luo's cheek. That wrinkled face was filled with disbelief. "You're called Qing Luo? Are you really called Qing Luo?" When the elderly man's hand almost touched Yi Qing Luo's face, the girl's fair hand gently grasped the old man's wrist. She looked up and met the old man's inquisitive and shocked gaze. She frowned slightly and said, What is your relationship with Feng Ge?" Yi Qing Luo knew that she looked similar to her mother whom she had never met before. As for the old man in front of them, at first glance he had mistaken her for Feng Ge. Furthermore, the fluctuation of his emotions was a little strange. Apparently, his relationship with Feng Ge was very good. Yi Qing Luo had some guesses in her heart. I am Feng Ji's father," the old man said word by word as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 47-71. The elderly looked at her face, as though he was looking at the most precious thing in the world. His heart was trembling violently. This face, this name, whether it was real or fake, it was enough. In his heart, a huge wave was set off. Yi Qing Luo listened to the elderly's words. The expression on her face congealed. Feng Ji's father? That meant her maternal grandfather. Wait a minute. Her mother was someone from thousands of years ago. Then, how old was her mother's father? This leap was a little too big. She was a little dazed now. This was a little illogical. The elderly stared at Yi Qing Luo's face. "You and Xiaoge really look too alike." Too alike. An 80% similar appearance to Feng Ge, wearing Feng Ji's clothes. That bright and disdainful look was exactly the same as the style in her memory, if it wasn't for that pair of eyes. Compared to Feng Ge, who had been standing on the throne for many years, there was an obvious difference. The elderly really wanted to treat this young lady in front of him as his own daughter. "Qing Luo. You are Qing Luo, right?" The elderly's voice trembled as he probed with some hope. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips and nodded slowly. "Yes, I am Yi Qing Luo." She paused and asked again. "You know me?" "Xiaoji's daughter." As her father, how could I not know? The elderly stretched out his hand and held Yi Qing Luo's hand once again. "Patriarch." The old lady's expression congealed. She took a look at Yi Qing Luo and looked at the elderly and lowered her voice. "Patriarch." This young lady appeared out of thin air. Similar looks. And coincidentally, her name was Qing Luo. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? This was just a trap. A trap to destroy the Feng residence. To old Patriarch, what kind of blow was this? This young lady's identity must be thoroughly investigated. However, the elderly didn't care as both his hands held Yi Qing Luo's hand tightly, even if it's fake. To let me see Xiao Gu again, or to imagine countless times. To see Xiao Ji's daughter. I am willing. The elderly's voice was choked with sobs. That was the elderly's longing for his loved ones. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were slightly red, and her nose felt a little sour as she held onto the elderly man's wrinkled hand. She could feel it. The old man truly missed Feng Ge. "Fairy sister, this is Cece's favorite cherry blossom cake." The little guy strode with his short legs, and trotted in with thumping thumps. She was also holding a plate of desserts in her hands. After rushing into the room, when he saw that dignified and tall figure, his smile immediately froze on his face. "Gee, grandfather." Xiao Budian seemed to be frightened, and suddenly stood up straight. The small plate in his hand was trembling slightly. "Young master." The old woman, Granny Feng, pulled Tiny Tot to her and stroked his head to comfort him. The old man turned his head and looked at the pale-faced Tiny Tot, who was hiding beside Granny Feng's leg. He waved at him. The little guy was a bit scared, but he still bit his lower lip and moved to the elder's side with small steps. The elderly man pulled Tiny Tot over and hugged him in his arms, then made him face Yiqing Luo. Do you know her? Tiny Tot looked at Yiqing Luo. A frightened expression appeared on his face. Grandfather, I won't dare to play anymore in the future. Grandfather, don't punish Fairy Sister, okay? Grandfather didn't punish her. The old man patted Tiny Tot's head lightly. You like her a lot? Tiny Tot immediately shook his head. No. Cece doesn't like her. Grandfather, let her go, okay? Chapter 4772. Xiao Ji's daughter. As her father, how could I not know? The old man stretched out his hand and held Yiqing Luo's hand once again. Patriarch. The old woman's expression was tense. She looked at Yiqing Luo and the old man and lowered her voice. Patriarch, this lady appeared out of thin air. Similar appearance. And her name was also Qing Luo. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? If this was just a trap to destroy the Feng residence, what kind of blow would this be to the old patriarch? This girl's identity must be thoroughly investigated. However, the old man didn't care. Both hands held Yiqing Luo's hand tightly. Even if it's fake, to let me see Xiao Gu again. Or to imagine countless times to see Xiao Ji's daughter. I am willing. The old man's voice was choked with emotion. That was the old man's longing for his loved ones. Yiqing Luo's eyes were slightly red. Her nose was a little sour as she held the old man's wrinkled hand. She could feel it. The old man really missed Feng Ge. Elder sister Fairy, this is Cece's favorite cherry blossom cake. The little guy strode with his short legs and trotted in with thumping thumps. He was holding a plate of snacks in his hand. After rushing into the room, seeing that majestic figure, the smile on his face immediately froze. Grandpa! Grandpa! The little guy seemed to be frightened and suddenly stood up straight. The small plate in his hand was trembling slightly. Young master. The old woman Granny Feng pulled the little guy towards her and stroked his head comfortingly. The old man turned his head and looked at the little guy who was hiding beside Granny Feng's leg with a slightly pale face, and waved at him. The little guy was a little scared, but he still bit his lower lip and moved to the old man's side in small steps. The old man pulled the little guy and hugged him in his arms, then turned him to face Yiqing Luo. Do you know her? The little guy looked at Yiqing Luo. A frightened expression appeared on his face. Grandpa, I dare not to play anymore. Grandpa, don't punish Fairy Sister. Grandpa didn't punish her. The old man patted the little guy's head lightly. Do you like her very much? Xiao Budian immediately shook his head. No, Cece doesn't like her. Grandpa, can you let her go? The elder's large palm covered the little guy's head, and helplessly shook his head. Soon after, he raised his head and stared deeply at the young girl in front of him with slightly red eyes. I can see that. Cece really likes you. He sighed softly. This child has never let me touch his head like this. In order to make him let go of this girl in front of him, his Cece was clearly afraid of his approach, but she allowed him to do whatever he wanted. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly as she stretched out both her hands towards Tiny Tot, bringing him into her embrace. She lightly hooked her lips and extended her hand towards Xiao Budian. The little guy hesitated and didn't dare to move. His black and white eyes were clearly distinguishable, and he was even trying to signal her with his eyes. Yiqing Luo was overwhelmed by his cuteness. She took the initiative to walk over and pulled Xiao Budian into her embrace from the old man's hands. Grandfather treats me very well and didn't punish me. Yiqing Luo poked his little head. What on earth are you thinking in that little head of yours? Tiny Tot's eyes immediately brightened up. Really? You don't believe sister? Yiqing Luo pretended to be displeased and straightened her face. Tiny Tot shook his head like a rattle drum. I believe sister. Chapter 4773. The old man's finger touched the girl's forehead. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the old man's fingers trembling slightly. The rough touch caressed her skin. After confirming that the cherry blossom totem wasn't a fake, Lin Yin immediately turned around. The old man's hand trembled even more violently. Yiqing Luo put him down, stretched out her hand and held the old man's palm. According to the current situation, I indeed should call you grandfather. Her pink lips curled up slightly, and her charming eyes were filled with sincerity. I don't need to doubt your identities and she paused. How do you want to investigate? I'll cooperate. There was no guilt or other emotions on the girl's face. He was just so frank and honest. The old man held the young girl's soft hand and said in a choked voice, Okay. Grandpa believes you. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with gentleness. She had indeed thought of going to the God realm to search for her origins. But he had never thought that he would still have relatives other than his mother who still existed in this world. He had never thought that he would appear in front of his grandfather in such a way. Tiny Tot's name was Feng Shi, and he was the only young master of the Feng Mansion. The old man was the master of the Phoenix Mansion. Yiqing Luo understood. The profound practitioners of the God realm were completely capable of maintaining their appearance and form. Even if Feng family master wanted to meet people as a teenager, there was no problem at all. However, Feng clan master felt that he had lived for so long and had another grandson. He had to act like a grandfather. He learned from the words of Master Feng. Master Feng had indeed lived for thousands of years. He had also been the head of the Phoenix Mansion for thousands of years. She wholeheartedly stayed in Feng Manor, guarding the home that her daughter cared about the most. She accompanied Master Feng until the evening. Granny Feng came to call for dinner. Feng family's patriarch then pulled Yiqing Luo's hand and left the room. Granny Feng took a few glances at Yiqing Luo, but due to Patriarch Feng's elated mood, in the end he didn't say anything. Yiqing Luo was very clear that her sudden appearance was in this kind of identity. If it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to believe her identity so quickly. After all, the Phoenix Mansion wasn't an ordinary family. One wrong step, and what awaited them would be many more wrong steps. However, Patriarch Feng didn't seem to care at all. His eyes were full of kindness and kindness of an elder. Yiqing Luo followed behind Patriarch Feng. Looking at the old man's gray hair and tightly pursed pink lips, she asked softly, Aren't you afraid that I'm just lying to you? It seemed like, ever since she appeared, Feng clan master didn't seem to doubt her at all. Especially after she revealed the cherry blossom totem on her forehead. Even more so. The old man's body stiffened, but soon he continued to walk forward. The aged voice didn't conceal its gentleness. The moment I saw you, I knew that you were little Ji's daughter. Your eyes can't lie. I believe you. 3 simple words. I believe you. This made Yiqing Luo's eyes slightly warm. With a chuckle, she quickened her steps and held onto the old man's arm. Although grandfather trusts me unconditionally, in order to be more justifiable, I can accept any method of verification. There's no rush. The old man patted the back of her hand. We'll talk about it when your uncle comes back. Little uncle? She still had a little uncle? Yiqing Luo felt that this trip to God realm was really fated. She recognized one after another. Chapter 4774. After having a meal with the old man, she chatted with him for a while, until Yiqing Luo agreed more than 10 times to stay in the Feng residence. The old man then went to rest contentedly. Yiqing Luo played with little Feng Shi for a while. The sky was getting dark. Granny Feng left with Feng Shi. The room that Patriarch Feng prepared for her was the room that Feng Ge used to stay in. The room was very clean and everything was new. She could tell that it had been cleaned and taken good care of for a long time. Yiqing Luo looked at the furnishings in the room one by one. She could imagine what kind of person her mother was. When she was lying on her mother's bed, Yiqing Luo could vaguely smell a faint fragrance. Was this her mother's smell? She smelled the faint fragrance. Yiqing Luo gradually felt sleepy. In a daze, she seemed to dream of a woman. A woman in a gorgeous red dress. The woman's back was facing her. She turned her head slightly. Illusory, the white fog blurred everything in front of her. She couldn't see the woman's face clearly. She could only vaguely hear a gentle murmur, calling her name over and over again. Qing Luo, Qing Luo. That voice made Yiqing Luo's heart tightly clenched together. She wanted to open her mouth to respond, but her throat seemed to be blocked by something. She couldn't say a word. Suddenly, she opened her eyes abruptly and sat up on the bed. It was pitch black in the room. Only the light silver moonlight shone in from the open window. Yi Qingluo was gasping for air. In his mind, the image of the indistinct figure in his dream floated up. Her fair little hand slowly lifted up and pressed on her heart. That woman whose face couldn't be seen clearly. It was her mother, right? It was her mother. Calling her name, right? If it wasn't her mother, why did those calls cause her heart to throb in pain? In the darkness, the young lady slowly closed her eyes to let her emotions calm down slightly, staying in the room that her mother used to stay in. Then she dreamt of her mother. Actually, it was better to think about her. Thinking about that. Even if she had never met her mother, they were blood-related. Yi Qingluo was closing her eyes to calm down. Suddenly his ears twitched. She opened her eyes. A pair of long and narrow eyes flickered with a cold light in the darkness. Someone was there. She quietly slid down from the bed and approached the open window. From this angle, he could see the surroundings of the courtyard. The courtyard was quiet. The silver moonlight shone coldly. There was no one around. Yi Qingluo's eyes congealed slightly as she felt a little strange. She had clearly sensed that there was someone outside the door. How could this be? Wait a minute. Yi Qingluo's expression suddenly changed as she reacted. In the blink of an eye, he turned his head in alarm. However, a cold and gloomy aura came from behind. She could only see two people in black robes flashing past her eyes. In the next instant, she lost consciousness. Bang! There was a deafening knock on the door. The tall man rushed into the room and searched everywhere. Such a commotion shocked everyone else in the Phoenix Manor awake. Granny Feng was the first to arrive. Behind her were numerous Phoenix Manor guards. When she saw the room that Yi Qingluo was staying in temporarily, the door had collapsed to the ground. A tall figure stood in the darkness, emitting a gloomy aura. Granny Feng was stunned. You. Who are you? The guards surrounded the room, full of vigilance. Chapter 4775. From this angle, she could see the environment in the courtyard. It was quiet in the courtyard. The silver moonlight shone down coldly. There was no one. Yi Qingluo's eyes congealed slightly, feeling a little strange. She clearly sensed that there was someone outside the door. How could it be? Wait a minute. Yi Qingluo's expression suddenly changed as she reacted. Almost instantaneously, she turned her head around alertly. But a gloomy and cold aura came from behind her. She only saw two men dressed in black robes flashing past her eyes. The next moment, she lost consciousness. Bam! A deafening sound of the door being knocked was heard. A tall man rushed into the room and searched around. Such a commotion shocked the rest of the people in the Phoenix Manor. Granny Feng was the first to rush over. Behind her were numerous Phoenix Manor guards. When she saw the room which Yi Qingluo was staying in temporarily, the main door had collapsed onto the ground. A tall figure stood in the darkness, emitting a gloomy and ruthless aura. Granny Feng was stunned. You. Who are you? The guards surrounded the room. Their eyes were filled with vigilance. That man's expression was gloomy and cold. His eyes searched around and fixed on Granny Feng. Where is Qingluo? Granny Feng asked. What are you doing in Miss Qingluo's room? That man clenched his fists tightly as his tone became heavier. This god is asking you, where on earth is Qingluo? That sinister tone and the majestic profound energy released from his body made Granny Feng's expression sunk. Why are you looking for Miss Qingluo? A guard rushed over with a torch in his hand. The bright light of the fire shone down. Granny Feng clearly saw the man who was hiding in the darkness. That handsome face. She staggered backwards. Bone Lord. The man in front of her was the fiendish-looking blood-bone barbaric king. His expression was gloomy as his thin lips pursed tightly. His gaze was sinister and sharp. Where is Qingluo? These four words had already exhausted all of his patience. The wind from his palm blew up, and the ground exploded into a huge deep pit. Granny Feng naturally knew this person who used to follow Feng Gu around like a shadow. She was also clear about the relationship between Bone Lord and Feng Gu. But wasn't Bone Lord annihilated by Feng Gu thousands of years ago? Why would he appear here? The barbaric Bloodbone King had already lost his patience. He strode into the house and rummaged around. But there was no sign of Yiqing Luo in the house. At this moment, Granny Feng realized something and her expression changed. Miss Qing Luo is staying here. How could she? The Phoenix Manor was heavily guarded. Who was able to bring Miss Qing Luo away from the Feng residence without anyone knowing? Unless Granny Feng recalled the scene when she first met Yiqing Luo as she narrated it concisely. Could Miss Qing Luo have used the same method to leave the Feng residence? Impossible. The barbaric Bloodbone King's face was ferocious and the veins on his forehead were bulging. Since she promised old Master Feng that she would stay, she won't leave. Granny Feng was so scared that her face turned pale. Then Miss Qing Luo. Because of your Feng family, she has been targeted. Bloodbone Barbaric King said word by word, squeezing out from between his teeth. Granny Feng staggered. How could this be possible? I will go and inform the Patriarch now. What happened? Just as she was speaking, Patriarch Feng walked over with a frown. Why is there such a loud noise? Granny Feng hurriedly walked over. Patriarch Miss Qing Luo, she is missing. Chapter 4776. This was a dim and empty place. Only the top of her head was sprinkled with bits of light, barely lighting up the surrounding environment. This should be a secret room. The air was damp, and there was also the smell of decay mixed in. It didn't smell good. Yiqing Luo was just about to move, but she discovered that her 4 limbs were locked with a heavy iron chain. The moment she moved, the iron chain made a walala sound. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and stared at the iron hoops on her hands and legs. 4 shining silver chains, not knowing where they were connected to. Yiqing Luo. What the heck? What kind of situation was this? Forget it if she was kidnapped. The other party actually tied her up like this. Couldn't they have some God realm style? Was there a need to do this to deal with someone from the lower realm? The iron hoops on her 4 limbs weren't considered heavy, and the chain was very long. She could drag the iron chain to stand up and walk 2 steps. It was just that this movement, the dragging sound, in this silent pitch-black darkness, was really too loud. Yiqing Luo felt that her eardrums were filled with the walala sound. Her head was hurting. She was restrained by the iron chain again. She simply sat back down. Dragging the iron chain was tiring and noisy. Even if she found the exit, she couldn't run out. She might as well conserve her energy and wait for the person who kidnapped her to show himself and probe the other party's motive. But to be able to sneak into the Feng residence to kidnap someone, and successfully kidnap someone. Who could it be? Yiqing Luo didn't think for long, only to hear a squeak sound. A few figures walked out from the entrance of the secret room. In the darkness, Yiqing Luo couldn't see clearly, but from the material and embroidery on their clothes, Yiqing Luo could tell that they were either rich or respectable. She's awake. A 30 to 40-year-old man's voice opened. This is the woman from the Feng residence? From the looks of it, other than that face, there doesn't seem to be anything special. Are you sure? You didn't catch the wrong person? Absolutely not. I saw with my own eyes that Patriarch Feng that old fogey asked about this woman's well-being, and couldn't wait to pamper her. The 4 of them were talking at the same time. Yiqing Luo's head started to swell. He roughly understood a little. The reason why she was kidnapped and brought here. It was related to the Phoenix Mansion. Especially, in a place like the Feng Manor, it was rare for young women to appear for many years. A beautiful girl suddenly appeared. Moreover, it could make the serious and old-fashioned Feng clan master treat her gently and have a close relationship with her, creating an atmosphere of joy and harmony. This was enough to show the importance of this young lady. So those who targeted the Feng family naturally placed their target on Yiqing Luo. The 4 of them came closer. Under the dim lighting, Yiqing Luo couldn't see their faces clearly. He could only vaguely see their silhouettes and the fair skin that was inadvertently exposed. There were 4 men. Little girl, what is the relationship between you and Patriarch Feng? Someone asked. Yiqing Luo raised her head as her squinted eyes revealed a sneer of ridicule. Haven't you all already filled in the blanks? Do you still need me to say? Yiqing Luo's attitude was indeed not considered as good. The four of them's expressions sunk as their breathing paused. One of them was infuriated. Little girl, this isn't the Feng residence. It was indeed the mysterious young lady who appeared at Patriarch Feng's side. Chapter 4777. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as she stared at them. Who are you people? Young lady, this is the question we asked first. That man stared at Yiqing Luo as he asked again. What relationship do you have with the Feng family? If I said there's no relationship, would you believe me? Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up as she asked. How could it not be related? That man walked up in big strides and pressed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. You're the only young lady who can stay in the Feng manor. That person came closer. Under the dim lighting, Yiqing Luo could see the person in front of her clearly. It was a man in his 40s. He had a dignified expression on his face, and it was obvious that he was a person of high status and power. The aura emitted from his body gave people a strong sense of oppression. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as her heart was filled with some doubts. Since he was of such a high status, why would he do such a risky thing? Who cares what relationship she has with the Feng clan? Tell the Feng clan master that she is in our hands. Let him exchange what we want. Another middle-aged man said angrily. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. These people bang. Did he want to use her to exchange for something from the Feng manor? Was there something wrong with these people? All of them are in high positions, and yet they want to bang. It was the first time he had seen her in the Feng manor, and he was going to exchange her for something from the Feng manor? The reason they were able to use this method at the end of the road was obviously because they were at their wits' end. How could she be sure that the Feng manor would compromise for her? I heard that the Feng mansion has already sent out all the hidden guards of the Feng mansion to search for her whereabouts. It seems that the Feng mansion really values this young girl. Suddenly, a middle-aged man came in from outside the door and said with a happy tone. Hearing this, a greedy smile appeared on their faces. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she used the light above her head to see everyone's expression clearly. He felt a little uneasy. The next day, the Feng manor declared a lockdown and searched everywhere. Everyone discussed animatedly. However, no one knew exactly why the Phoenix Mansion, which had been silent for many years, would make such a big move this time. However, after a whole morning, there was no news at all. Master Feng was so anxious that he couldn't eat or sleep. He had been longing for his granddaughter for a long time. They had only eaten one meal. So he lost her. He was such a failure as a grandfather. Feng she sat next to the master of the Feng family sullenly, and her delicate little face was full of worry. Her big eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. Granny Feng walked in and saw the old man and the young girl. She couldn't help but feel sorry for them. Yesterday she was still thinking about it. It didn't matter if the girl was real or not. As long as he could make the old and young of the Feng manor happy. Even if it was fake, he had to treat the girl as real. However, he was only happy for a few hours. He was lost. Furthermore, she was kidnapped from the heavily guarded Feng manor. However, the Feng mansion was completely unaware of this. But now they couldn't even find him. Granny Feng sighed and walked into the room. She said in a low voice, Master, young Master Chongqing and Master Flower King are here. Feng clan master's body stiffened. The face that seemed to have aged by dozens of years overnight slowly raised up. Yiqing Luo had mentioned it yesterday. She lived in the 100 Garden, and the Flower King took her to the divine world. Now the two of them were here. Apparently it was because of Yiqing Luo. He closed his tired eyes and said, Let them in. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4778. Was there something wrong with them? All of them were in high positions. How could they kidnap a girl whom they met for the first time to exchange for something from the Feng mansion? The reason they were able to use this method at the end of the road was obviously because they were at their wits' end. How could they be sure that the Feng mansion would give in for her? I heard that the Feng mansion has sent out all the secret guards to search for her. It seems that the Feng mansion really values this girl. Suddenly, a middle-aged man came in from outside and said happily. They all showed greedy smiles when they heard that. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She could see their expressions clearly from the light above her head. She felt a little uneasy. The next day, the Feng mansion closed the city and searched everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. But no one knew why the Feng mansion, which had been silent for so many years, made such a big move. However, there was no news for the whole morning. Patriarch Feng was so anxious that he couldn't eat or sleep. He had been thinking about it for a long time and finally saw his granddaughter. They had only eaten one meal. So he lost her. He was such a failure as a grandfather. Feng Shi sat next to the master of the Feng family sullenly, and her delicate little face was full of worry. Her big eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. Granny Feng walked in and saw the old and the young. She couldn't help feeling sorry for them. Yesterday, she was still thinking about it. No matter whether the girl was real or not, as long as it could make the old and the young in the Feng mansion happy. Even if she was fake, she had to treat the girl as real. But she was happy for only a few hours. She was lost. Furthermore, she was kidnapped from the heavily guarded Feng manor. But the Feng mansion didn't know anything. Now they couldn't even find her. Granny Feng sighed and walked into the room. Patriarch, young Master Chongqing and Lord Flower King are here. Feng clan master's body stiffened. The face that seemed to have aged by dozens of years overnight slowly raised up. Yiqing Luo had mentioned it yesterday. She lived in the 100-flower garden and was brought to the divine realm by Flower King. Now they were here. Apparently it was because of Yiqing Luo. He closed his tired old eyes and said, "Let them in." Granny Feng went out to invite them. Not long later, Feng Chongqing and Ji Wuhua entered the hall. When they saw Patriarch Feng, the two saluted. "You're here for Qing Luo, right?" Patriarch Feng heaved a long sigh. "It's my fault. Qing Luo had finally returned to the Feng family, but I let her go missing in my place." Feng Zhongqing hurriedly stepped forward and held Clan Master Feng's arm. "Clan Master, please don't be sad. If Miss Yi comes back, she certainly wouldn't want to see Clan Master so worried." Ji Wuhua collapsed on a wooden chair at the side. "I'm the unlucky one. I was ordered by the acting Divine Emperor to bring Miss Yi to see the acting Divine Emperor. Now she disappeared from my 100-flower garden and was taken away by someone in the Feng mansion." He covered his face. "How should I face the acting God Emperor so that I won't be beaten to death?" "Wuhua." Feng Zhongqing glared at Ji Wuhua in warning. The Feng family master waved his hand and said, "It's my fault. Don't blame the Flower King." He stood up slowly and said helplessly, "I'll explain it to the acting God Emperor. Don't worry." The man who was covering his face suddenly sat up. There was no sadness on his face at all. "You said it yourself." Chapter 4779. Feng Manor. There were only a few people in the Feng Manor. Feng Zhongqing and Ji Wuhua's sight shifted to Patriarch Feng. Of course, they weren't doubting Patriarch Feng, but asking him if he agreed with this point of view. Feng clan master's slightly aged face stiffened slightly, and his face darkened. Indeed, if it wasn't someone from the Feng Manor, how could it be possible to abduct Yiqing Luo, who lived in this courtyard which had long been prohibited from entering and exiting silently? Moreover, the other party must be extremely familiar with the Feng Manor. Granny Feng, who was standing by the side, immediately knelt down on the ground. "Patriarch, I'm loyal to you and young master. I've been taking care of young master since young, and I know that he likes Miss Qing Luo. I will never do such a treacherous thing." Other than the two masters of the Feng Manor, and the acting God Emperor, who rarely appeared in the Feng Manor, the person in charge was her. Therefore, she was the most suspicious one. Patriarch Feng and the others all looked at Granny Feng. Ji Wuhua's lips curled up slightly as he leaned down with a faint smile. "How can you prove that it's not you?" Granny Feng's face turned pale. "I dare to swear with my life that if I have any ill intentions towards Patriarch, I'm willing to be punished by the heavens." Ji Wuhua curled his lips. "What's the use of swearing? Anyway, everyone in the Feng Manor is a suspect." "Enough." Patriarch Feng spoke in a low and cold voice. I believe in Granny Feng. Granny Feng's eyes were slightly red. Thank you, Patriarch. She had been following the Feng manor since young. She had been a servant girl all the way to her current position. She had never been disloyal to the Feng family. Now such a thing had happened. She understood why everyone doubted her. But hearing Patriarch Feng's trust, she immediately felt relieved. As long as Patriarch and young master believed her, it was enough. Granny Feng, invite the Feng Manor's secret guards and guard captain here. Patriarch Feng's tone was dignified and his expression was solemn. Yes. Granny Feng handed Feng Shi over to Patriarch Feng and left. Feng Shi rarely took the initiative to hold Patriarch Feng's hand, and her big eyes were filled with tears. Grandpa, will fairy sister, come back? I'll be back. Feng family's patriarch paused after every word as he held Tiny Tot's little hand. Qing Luo will be fine. When Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes again, it was already bright. Sunlight shone down from above, illuminating the dark room. Perhaps, to be more accurate, this was a dungeon. The environment was filthy and messy. There were no guards around. The middle-aged men from yesterday had also disappeared without a trace. But that's true, they tied her up like this. There was indeed no need to worry that she would run away. After all, there was no way to escape. Last night, a few middle-aged men confronted her for a long time. They didn't get anything useful out of each other. As soon as the sky brightened, the group of people hurriedly left. While they're gone, he had to think of a way to leave this place. Old Man Song, is there any way to break this iron chain? Yi Qing Luo asked in her heart. Old Man Song's tone was solemn. This is a special ice iron chain made by the God Realm to trap cultivators. Unless we get the key. Otherwise, if we use brute force to break it, it will cause too much fluctuation. It would also easily attract the attention of those who locked her here. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly. Chi-Chi and the rest can't bite this iron chain. Chapter 4780. The environment was dirty and messy. There were no guards around. Those middle-aged men yesterday were nowhere to be seen. But it was also they tied her up like this. And there was no need to worry that she would escape. After all, there was no way to escape. Last night, those middle-aged men confronted her for a long time. They didn't get any useful information from each other. When the sky was bright, a group of people left in a hurry. While they were away, she had to find a way to get out of here. Old Man Song, is there any way to break this iron chain? Yi Qing Luo asked in her heart. Old Man Song's tone was solemn. This is a special ice iron chain used to trap cultivators. Unless you get the key. Otherwise, if you use brute force to break it, it will cause too much fluctuation. It would also easily attract the attention of those who locked her here. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly. Chi-Chi and the rest can't bite this iron chain? I'm afraid not. Old Man Song sighed softly. Even the teeth of the sacred beasts can't bite the indestructible ice iron chain. Yi Qing Luo said, am I going to be locked up by them like this until they are willing to let me go? The premise was that they would let her go? She felt that those middle-aged men had gone crazy. They said that they were going to report to the Feng residents that she was caught. But, until now there was no news. Yi Qing Luo was wondering if she had been forgotten, right? Probably not. Old Man Song said. After all, your face is too similar to the Emperor of God. It's rare for the Feng family's patriarch to meet his biological granddaughter. How could he give you up? But, I don't want to wait for grandfather to save me like this. Yin Jiuemo pursed her pink lips tightly and lowered her eyes slightly. For her, Feng family was extremely unfamiliar. But kinship came from the heart. Like her, when she saw the gray-haired old man Feng, her heart softened. Like old man Feng, even if he hadn't confirmed her identity, based on the kinship between both parties, he was sure of her identity. Old man Feng's feelings for her were real. She didn't want to give the Feng family any compromise for her on the first day she returned to the Feng family. A group of people in high positions would not hesitate to kidnap a strange girl like her as a hostage against the Feng family. It was enough to show that these people wanted to get something from the Feng family for a long time. That was why he had no choice to do such a thing. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped as her heart felt heavy. Suddenly, a few sounds came from outside the secret chamber. A figure quietly approached the secret chamber. Yiqing Luo recognized that man. It was one of the middle-aged men she met last night. Cautiously, he scanned his surroundings. He then stepped into the secret chamber. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and was about to get up. The middle-aged man, who had a gloomy and solemn expression that night, now revealed a kind smile. "Miss, don't move, don't move. I'm here to help you." She moved. The sound of the ice chains was extremely loud. It was easy to cause agitation. "Help her?" Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sized up the middle-aged man. "Can you help me?" The middle-aged man walked over with a smile. "Don't you want to leave this place? You can get this key." Yiqing Luo lowered her head and glanced at the iron chains tied to her hands and feet. The middle-aged man nodded. "Of course." Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. "What conditions?" No matter how amiable the middle-aged man's smile was. Chapter 4781. The middle-aged man's smile became even more joyous, and with more sincerity. Amen, he was sincerely trying to coax this young lady. "As long as you tell me the whereabouts of the Phoenix residence's treasures." He lowered his voice, as his tone became more bewitching. "I will let you leave this place, and guarantee that I will escort you to the Phoenix residence safely." Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, as her eyes curved, as her eyelashes rose. Her gorgeous face was secretly in a dilemma, as though she was pondering, should she believe his words or not? But moments later, the young lady's eyes widened, as she put on a serious expression. "I really don't know what you're talking about." The more Yiqing Luo said, the more the middle-aged man felt that Yiqing Luo absolutely knew. After several rounds of enticement, this confirmed his guess even more. But the young lady just insisted that she didn't know. After spending about 1 incense's time, the middle-aged man's brows were filled with a sliver of impatience and fluster, probably afraid that the matter of him quietly coming to look for Yiqing Luo would be discovered by the other middle-aged men. The middle-aged man's expression sunk as he looked at the young lady who was stubbornly biting her pink lips, as he started to threaten her. "Young lady, you're an intelligent person. Don't tell me you want to be locked up here forever?" He took a step forward, as he stretched out his hand in an attempt to pull Yiqing Luo in front of him. Yiqing Luo was so frightened that she shrank backwards. The entire dark room was filled with the sound of iron chains dragging on the ground. It shocked the middle-aged man so much that he stopped in his tracks, as he gave a flustered hush to Yiqing Luo. He hurriedly took 2 steps back, not daring to get close to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips, as though she was badly frightened, as her long eyelashes were still fluttering. Although the middle-aged man didn't get close, he continued to threaten her. "Young lady, those few people are not as easy to talk to as me. If you listen to me, you'll be good, I'll be good, everyone will be good. But," he gave a cold laugh, "their methods. You, young lady, will not be able to take it." Yiqing Luo bit her lips, as though she was pondering over his words, as she lowered her head slightly. After some time, she slowly opened her mouth. "What you said. Is it true?" When the middle-aged man heard that there was a chance, he immediately smiled. "How could I lie to you? I just couldn't bear to see such a beautiful little girl like you being defiled by those old men, so I specially came to save you. I'm a good person." The smile on his face rippled. This made Yiqing Luo's mind immediately conjure up an image. "Don't be afraid, uncle is a good person." Yiqing Luo's alluring eyes concealed all her emotions as she maintained her innocent and harmless expression, asking, "I can believe you, but you have to tell me specifically, what kind of precious treasure are you referring to?" Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. These people had kidnapped her and brought her here. He was using this to threaten the Phoenix Mansion to hand over the so-called treasure. She still didn't know what that treasure was. He planned to get some clues from the middle-aged man's mouth. Suddenly, a series of light footsteps came from outside the dark room. He tiptoed and was very careful. The middle-aged man's expression changed when he heard the commotion. His gaze swept across the surroundings. He immediately rushed to the haystack behind Yiqing Luo. He didn't forget to make a shushing gesture towards Yiqing Luo, as he immediately shrunk into the haystack. Yiqing Luo. Which dog thing disturbed her to get information? Chapter 4782. Outside the dark room. A man walked in carefully. Just like the previous middle-aged man, he looked around vigilantly. When he saw Yiqing Luo, he revealed the same kind smile. Yiqing Luo. She seemed to have predicted the reason why the other party came to the dark room. As expected, the second middle-aged man asked the same question as the first middle-aged man. The majestic haystack trembled. Yiqing Luo glanced at that person, pursed her lips and shook her head. I don't know what you're asking. The second person's temper was much worse than the first. After a few rounds of questioning, Yiqing Luo avoided answering. So she directly threatened. Just as she was threatening, another set of footsteps came from outside the dark room. The second person gave Yiqing Luo a threatening stare, and even made a neck-slitting gesture. Following that, he burrowed into the haystack. The haystack hid the second person's figure. After a few breaths, a sound was heard from inside. But after the third person entered the dark room, he stopped abruptly, keeping quiet. The third person was the same. He also came to ask Yiqing Luo about the so-called Phoenix Residence's treasures. Following that, it seemed as though everyone had agreed on it. One after another. Almost all the 5 people who met last night lined up. The only hiding place in the dark room was the haystack, which was filled with people. When the last person stood in front of Yiqing Luo, a bam sound was heard. The haystack fell to the ground. 4 middle-aged men fell out. And the 5th person who was standing in front of Yiqing Luo, smiling amiably, trying to dig out information from her mouth, looked at each other in dismay. When their eyes met, it was extremely awkward. You guys? Why are you here? The gazes they shot at each other were filled with suspicion. The 5 of them looked at each other for a moment. The 5th person seemed to have understood something, as he pointed at the 4 of them and shouted, Good. Trying to find out the whereabouts of the Phoenix Residence's treasures behind my back. The 4 of them were unconvinced. As though you came here secretly, not for the Phoenix Residence's treasures. For a moment, the few of them were speechless. The entire screen was filled with an awkward atmosphere. None of them had expected that their thoughts would coincide with those of the others. All of them wanted to find out from Yiqing Luo's mouth about the treasures in the Phoenix Manor, and monopolize the treasures for themselves. Cough. Yiqing Luo was the first to break the silence. Listen to me first. The 5 of them simultaneously shot their gazes towards Yiqing Luo. The treasure that you're talking about. What exactly are you referring to? Yiqing Luo was also interested in that treasure. A crafty light flashed in her charming eyes. Since you all want that thing, why don't you let me go back to the Feng Manor first, and I'll find it for you? The second person's face darkened, and he immediately shouted, Do you think we're all fools? If I let you go, do you think you can come back? Of course there are conditions. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at him and continued, To be able to make you guys go crazy over a treasure, it must be extremely valuable. As long as I help you find that treasure. Her voice paused for a moment. Then her charming eyes slowly focused on the people in front of her. I want to join you and enjoy the benefits of the Phoenix Manor's treasures. The young lady's pink lips curled up slightly, as she smiled sweetly. That pair of captivating eyes were filled with a scheming and crafty expression. The Feng Manor values me very much, and only I can come and go as I please in the Feng Manor. You guys probably can't even step into the Feng Manor's main door, right? Chapter 4783. The young lady's words made the expressions of the 5 of them congealed slightly. Undeniable. What she said was the truth. The Feng mansion was heavily guarded, and the Feng family master was a stubborn person. Even if they had the chance to enter the Feng residence, the range of action was only the boundary of the guest hall, not to mention searching for the whereabouts of the treasure. Even if they knew the exact location of the treasure, It probably wouldn't be that easy to get it. But this young lady in front of them, she looked innocent and harmless. One look and they knew she was someone who could be easily grasped, if they could use her for their own use. She was indeed a help. The five of them exchanged glances and saw the deep meaning in each other's eyes. Yiqing Luo maintained a sweet shallow arc. Her long and narrow eyes were curved, hiding that smirk and ridicule in the depths of her eyes. If she promised herself to help them find the Feng family's treasure, they wouldn't believe her. But if she showed any other desire, help with a purpose, these people would naturally choose to believe her. Moreover, these people were certain that she had a pivotal position in the Feng residence. What she said was able to arouse the greed in their hearts. After all, they could find her alone to inquire about the whereabouts of the treasure. It was obvious that these people were all selfish. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly and continued to bewitch them. Since you value the Feng family's treasure so much, it must be something good. The five of you, after getting the treasure, you will split the loot. Adding me, it's also a split, isn't it? The young lady's voice was filled with a sense of complacency, full of a little girl's look. The few of them looked at each other in dismay. There was an ambiguous smile in the depths of his eyes. This young lady thought that the treasure they were talking about was the real rare treasure? Still thinking of splitting the loot. That thing couldn't be split. But this young lady didn't know anything, so it was good for them. After the treasure was in their hands, either give her something casually, or just kill her. The few of them exchanged glances and the first person raised a gentle smile. What young lady said makes sense. One more is one more then. That's settled. You're in charge of finding the location. We'll be in charge of getting it. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. Looking at the girl's innocent and harmless appearance, they didn't think that this girl could play tricks under their noses. Even if she was playing tricks, they had plenty of ways to subdue her. Since we've come to an agreement, can you help me remove these chains? Yiqing Luo stretched out both her hands. These chains are a little heavy. On the girl's fair arm, there was a circle of red marks from being rubbed by the iron chains. The first person pondered for a moment. He took out the key and unlocked it for her. Freed from the restraints, Yiqing Luo finally felt much more relaxed. She rubbed her reddened wrist. You eat this. The first person took out a medicinal pill and passed it to Yiqing Luo. The pill was about the size of a fingernail. It was brown and had a strong medicinal smell. Yiqing Luo stared at that medicinal pill as her brows creased slightly. What does this mean? Chapter 4784. The first man continued. Young lady, as long as you listen obediently and do what we tell you, I promise. I will give you the antidote once we get the treasure. Yiqing Luo grabbed that medicinal pill as a hesitant expression surfaced on her gorgeous face. She pursed her lips slightly. You won't lie to me? The five middle-aged men smiled amiably. We still need your help, and only you can help us. How could we lie to you? Yiqing Luo hesitated for a long time before she believed them. In front of them, she swallowed the pill into her mouth, until the young lady closed her mouth and made a swallowing action. Their eyes were filled with smiles. Little did they know, the moment the young lady raised her hand and put the pill into her mouth, the azure dew bracelet on her wrist had already absorbed the pill into the bracelet and directly passed it to Cauldron Dragon to analyze the effect of this pill. After Yiqing Luo finished eating the pill, the few of them let down their guard against her. As for them, even if Yiqing Luo had a close relationship with the Feng family, she was just a little girl. She was a greedy little girl who was ignorant of worldly affairs. People, with greed and desire, were easier to control. The five of them wanted to find out the news about the Feng family's treasure from Yiqing Luo's mouth, and then keep it for themselves. But at this time, the five of them were surprisingly united. After settling Yiqing Luo, the five of them discussed for a while. Then they led Yiqing Luo out of the dark room. Outside the dark room was a long passageway. It wasn't especially spacious. About the distance of 3 adult men walking together. 2 of them walked in front. Yiqing Luo and the first man were arranged in the middle. Behind them were two people. They surrounded Yi Qingluo tightly, not giving her the slightest chance to escape. Of course, they didn't think that Yi Qingluo would be so silly to escape under their eyes. Yi Qingluo's performance was obedient. Just like that, he followed behind them. However, her long and narrow eyes had a panoramic view of the surrounding environment. This passageway wasn't especially long. The five of them were discussing the location of the Feng family's treasure as they walked. Everyone's face was filled with a joyful smile. His tone was also very light. It was as if he had already sketched out the beautiful dream after getting the Feng family's treasures. Yi Qingluo walked on quietly. When they were about to reach the exit of the tunnel, her ears twitched. Her long and narrow eyes were fixated on the exit, and a strange fluctuation flashed past her eyes. He was getting closer to the exit. She became even more vigilant. The treasure of the Feng family must be in the most secret place of the Feng family. The third person guessed. Feng family has always claimed that their Feng family doesn't have that treasure. When the divine emperor passed away, the only person he saw was Feng family master. That thing must have been given to Feng family master. How about, after this little girl returns to the Feng family, let her quietly open the door for us at night, and let us enter the Feng mansion to look for her. The other four agreed with this statement. He didn't even ask Yi Qingluo a single question, and had already made up his mind so happily. A ray of light shone from the exit, illuminating the place. The sun was shining brightly, but Yi Qingluo could clearly feel that the surrounding air seemed to be swirling with a storm, which was extremely chilly and terrifying. As expected, Yi Qingluo didn't sense anything. After the five of them stepped out of the exit, all the complacency and smiles on their faces. At this moment it had completely dissipated, leaving nothing behind. Chapter 4785. Say, sir. The five of them trembled as they looked at the person standing at the exit. Their bodies were so weak that they almost fell to the ground. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes slightly, and looked past the few weak black-robed men towards the exit. That figure standing against the light. A black cloak covered him from head to toe. Only a pair of eyes that were as cold as a devil's. That man's imposing manner was terrifying. Even though Yi Qingluo was wearing that cold jade pendant, under that imposing manner, she couldn't help but feel a squeezing feeling in her heart. So strong. That black-robed man was several times stronger than these five middle-aged men. Yi Qingluo's heart was slightly lifted. In your eyes, do you still have this, Lord? The black-robed man's voice was deliberately changed using profound energy, sounding extremely sinister and cold. It was as sharp as a steel needle, piercing straight into the eardrum. The five of them were so scared that they immediately knelt on the ground, each of them trembling like a sieve. No, we don't dare. We pledge our loyalty to Lord. The black-robed man snorted lightly, full of ridicule. This Lord can't see your loyalty. The five of them knelt down. Yi Qingluo, who stood ramrod straight, was extremely eye-catching. The black-robed man's cold gaze faintly passed the five of them, and fell on Yi Qingluo. The five of them trembled as they racked their brains to find an excuse. She is just a young lady. I saw her pitiful, so I accompanied her, to go out to bask in the sun. This excuse was really far-fetched. But they had no other excuse to find. This lord couldn't tell that you know how to be tender towards the fairer sex. The black-robed man's voice was even more sarcastic. That chilly gaze was still fixated on Yi Qingluo. The smile was vicious and chilly. The five of them trembled and could only bite the bullet to admit. Because she said, if we let her go out to bask in the sun and relax, she will tell us the whereabouts of the Feng family's treasures. I thought, with the five of us guarding a young lady, can't stir up any waves. One of them turned his head over and gave Yi Qingluo a warning and terrified stare. Young lady, do you think? Are you the one who begged us to use the whereabouts of Feng family's treasures as an exchange condition? The five of them glanced at Yi Qingluo from the corner of their eyes. This young girl had eaten the pills they had fed her. If he did not obey, without their antidote, he would definitely die. So, as long as the girl admitted it, they could then push all the blame onto the girl. Yi Qingluo's brows lifted slightly as her gaze swept past the 5 people who were kneeling on the ground and shivering. Her pink lips curled into a cold arc that seemed to be a smile yet not a smile. Her long and narrow eyes were slightly curved, like ripples of water. Yes. The young girl's voice was clear and enchanting. She chuckled. It was me who wanted to come out. The 5 of them heaved a sigh of relief. Then they heard the young girl continued, but it wasn't me who begged them, but they begged me. Her slender fingers curled up a lock of hair which had fallen onto her shoulder as she smiled sweetly. They wanted to swallow the Feng family's treasures for themselves. I merely revealed a little, and they believed what I said. So silly. The young girl covered her mouth as she didn't conceal the ridicule in her tone. You're talking nonsense. The 5 of them turned pale as they had not expected Yi Qingluo to suddenly go back on her words. They stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. We are absolutely loyal to Sir, you slut, don't try to sow discord. Chapter 4786. Yi Qingluo's pink lips curled even more, as she couldn't be bothered with those 5 people. She raised her eyes slightly, as her vision fell onto the black-robed man. She met the black-robed man's gloomy gaze without fear. Full of smiles, without any fluctuations on her face. You're not afraid of this seat? The black-robed man's eyes grew colder, as though it was filled with chilly intent. Yi Qingluo shook her fingers. You can't catch me, what should I be afraid of? So confident? The black-robed man seemed to laugh. That voice which had been changed by the profound energy, when he laughed, it sounded especially sharp. Do you think this seat will give you the chance to leave? Yi Qingluo's fingertips caressed her lower lip, as the arc of her charming eyes slightly raised, with some undetectable coldness. Her expression didn't change, as she was very calm. Then why do you think I will give you the chance to stop me? The 2 of them looked at each other. No one was the first to leave their line of sight. The 5 people kneeling on the ground looked at this scene. Their hearts were trembling with fear. None of them had expected it. That young lady in front of them, who looked delicate and lovely, actually had such a strong aura. When she was entangled with their lord's aura, that slightly immature, devastatingly beautiful young face was actually not inferior to their lord at all. Simply, evenly matched. If they knew, this young lady would have that kind of flamboyant self-confidence, that breathtaking aura which made one unable to take their eyes off, they would absolutely not listen to this young lady's words. Unfortunately, even if they regretted, it was already too late. The black-robed man's eyes were cold, as a ball of black fog, spread out in between his pupils, as though a whirlpool was about to attack. Just as the black-robed man was about to make a move, to capture the young lady's figure moved. The fiery long dress fluttered in the wind. In midair, a beautiful mark was left behind. The speed was so fast that it couldn't be captured by the naked eye. While the young lady was moving, she didn't forget to turn back, her long and narrow eyes curved, as the corners of her lips couldn't conceal the ridicule. On account of being a captive whom you have captured before, let me kindly remind you. These 5 dogs of yours really aren't obedient. The next time you choose dogs, you must choose correctly. Following the young lady's voice, that shimmering red had completely disappeared in front of his eyes. Within 100 miles, he could not sense the slightest trace of the young woman's aura. The 5 of them turned pale instantly as they looked at the direction where Yi Qingluo disappeared in disbelief. That young girl. How could she possibly escape under the Lord's nose? Why didn't Sir chase after them? Instead, he allowed the girl to escape. The black-robed man who received the astonished gazes of the 5 people. He wanted to chase after her and stop her. However, even he couldn't sense the young girl's figure before she disappeared in front of him. The black-robed man narrowed his eyes dangerously, revealing a hint of darkness and coldness. Teleportation secret technique. He murmured the words under his breath. It was no wonder that the young girl dared to be so unbridled. The teleportation secret art had indeed rendered them helpless. What a good Yi Qingluo. Things were getting more and more interesting. There was a light sneer, and it was so strange that it sent chills down one's spine. The 5 people kneeling on the ground trembled under this light sneer. Despair and a gloomy and cold aura filled their bodies and minds. They were afraid that there would be no tomorrow. Yiqing Luo displayed the teleportation secret art and speedily left that group of people by 100 miles. That black-robed man gave her too much pressure. Not to mention that black-robed man. If those 5 middle-aged men joined hands to deal with her, she might not be able to take it. Chapter 4787. She wasn't a fool. How could she possibly escape after fighting with the other party? By that time, would she be able to escape? She could escape comfortably. Why make a big fuss? But Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if the black-robed man would catch up. She looked around her. Just as she was about to run further, she summoned Qi. Just as she moved, a powerful profound light shot over from afar. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tightened as she looked towards the direction where the profound ray came from. No one. The air seemed to have quietened down again. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed slightly as she quickly looked around. Suddenly, a hand was placed on her shoulder. Yiqing Luo suddenly turned her hand back, and the profound ray gathered in her palm as she slapped backwards. A hand abruptly intercepted her wrist. A slightly familiar warm smell rushed into her nose. Yiqing Luo withdrew her imposing manner and raised her head suddenly. Sure enough, she met with a handsome face. Bloodbone Barbaric King. It was actually Bloodbone Barbaric King. Why was he here? Wasn't he in the Earth boundary? Bloodbone Barbaric King grabbed the young lady's arm as his dark eyes swept back and forth on her body. Finally, his gaze landed on the red mark on her wrist. His brows suddenly knitted tightly. Yiqing Luo took a look at her wrist and withdrew her hand. It's okay, I was just locked for a while. Who did it? Bloodbone Barbaric King's gaze was gloomy. Yiqing Luo knew that he was worried about her. She shook her head. Let's go back to Feng family first. I'll tell you all at once. You still intend to go back? Bloodbone Barbaric King frowned. His brows were filled with disapproval. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. You said it yourself, that's Feng family, mother's family. Mother is no longer around this Feng family. If I don't return, maternal grandfather alone won't be able to hold on. To be able to let Patriarch Feng survive till now. It was all because of his obsession to find his daughter's biological daughter. Now she appeared. If she disappeared again, this would definitely be a heavy blow to Patriarch Feng. The barbaric Bloodbone King's face stiffened, but in the end, he did not say anything to stop him. Yiqing Luo took the initiative to hold the Bloodbone Barbaric King's arm. After all, he is my mother's father and my maternal grandfather. For my mother's sake, accompany me back to the Feng family, okay? The young girl's charming words and that sweet smile. The Bloodbone Barbarian King's eyes twitched. Even though the girl looked very similar to Feng Ge. However, the Barbaric Blood King could clearly feel the difference between the two of them. But even so, he couldn't refuse any of the girl's requests. Yiqing Luo didn't give the Barbaric Bloodbone King any chance to reject. After acting coquettishly, she pulled the Bloody Bone Barbarian King toward the Feng family. Feng Manor. Feng Clan Master looked at the news provided by the informant, and his face was gloomy. He slammed the table. What a bunch of 5 great nobles! How dare you lay your hands on my granddaughter? The 5 great aristocrats? Feng Zhongqing frowned slightly. Why would the aristocrats kidnap Miss Yi? Yiqing Luo had just arrived at the God Realm. It should be impossible for her to form a feud with the 5 great nobles. Or rather, it was impossible for the 5 great nobles to know Yiqing Luo. And why would they kidnap Yiqing Luo? Their target is our Feng family. Feng Clan Master clenched his fists tightly, a murderous look filled his eyes. Dare to kidnap my Feng family's granddaughter? I'd like to see how arrogant the 5 great nobles are now. He stood up abruptly, and his gaze swept over to Granny Feng. Get ready, we're going to the 5 great nobles. Chapter 4788. Granny Feng immediately made arrangements. Feng Zhongqing and Ji Wuhua looked at each other. Let's go too. Saying that, the group of people headed towards the main door of the Feng residence. Just as they reached the main door of the Feng residence, they heard a voice full of laughter. "Hey, you all know that I'm coming back at this time and you personally came to welcome me?" The young lady's clear voice was like pearls falling on a plate. When it fell into everyone's ears, it made everyone's eyes lit up as their faces revealed a joyful expression. It's Qing Luo. Not too far ahead, a drop-dead gorgeous young woman in fluttering red clothes was slowly walking towards them. Behind the young lady was the gloomy-looking bloodbone barbaric king. After seeing Qing Luo, Feng family's patriarch almost subconsciously walked towards her. Because of excitement, the old man's footsteps were somewhat messy. Qing Luo hurriedly took the initiative to welcome him and held his arm. "Grandfather, I've made you worried. Are you hurt anywhere? Tell grandfather if you feel uncomfortable. Grandfather will ask someone to come over to take a look." Feng family's patriarch sized Qing Luo up, his eyes filled with concern. Qing Luo shook her head. Nothing, what could happen to me?" Feng family's patriarch's eyes were slightly red. He raised his head and looked at Bloodbone Barbaric King behind Qing Luo. "Bone Lord, it's all thanks to you today. It has nothing to do with this god." Bloodbone Barbaric King was expressionless. When this god followed her aura and rushed over, she had already escaped. Feng family's patriarch was slightly stunned when he heard that. Even the few people who followed behind were stunned. When Feng family's patriarch regained his senses, his expression was somewhat solemn. He pulled Qing Luo and walked towards the Feng residence. "Let's go back and talk." The group of people turned around and walked into the Feng residence. No one noticed it. Not far from the main door of the Feng residence, a few black-robed men with gloomy expressions and vicious aura were staring at the slowly closing main door of the Feng residence. "That young lady from the Feng family is back. Inform Sir first." One of them took out a paper crane. Profound light surged. That paper crane instantly turned into a ball of light and flew towards somewhere. Returning to the main hall of the Feng manor, Feng family's patriarch pulled Qing Luo along as he asked all sorts of questions. After all, the tip-off was that Qing Luo had been kidnapped by the combined forces of the 5 great aristocrats. It fell into the hands of the 5 great aristocratic families. Qing Luo was able to come back safe and sound? Or with just his own strength? The more Feng clan master thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. "Qing Luo, were you forced to come back? Or poisoned?" Feng family's patriarch suddenly closed the distance between Qing Luo, as he lowered his voice and asked. "Qing Luo. Grandfather, aren't you imagining too much?" She patted Feng clan's master's hand. I'm really fine. Those people can't hurt me." Feng clan master was still worried. Feng Zhangqing said, "Lord Patriarch, why don't you let Wuhua take a look at Miss Yi?" Ji Wuhua was one of the top 3 alchemists in the entire divine world. His medical skills were superb. However, Ji Wuhua rarely saved people. Or rather, he had never saved anyone in front of anyone. Over time, the people in the divine world almost forgot that Ji Wuhua was also a doctor. Feng clan master quickly looked at Ji Wuhua. "Flower King. It's about the beauty's safety. It would be impolite of me to refuse." Ji Wuhua smiled evilly. A pair of captivating phoenix eyes seemed to be emitting electric current. It seemed that he still wanted to prove his charm in front of Qing Luo. Waist 7th Miss. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Will continue to be updated in the Sea of Books Pavilion. There are no advertisements in the site. Please collect and recommend the Sea of Books Pavilion. Waist 7th Miss. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Waist 7th Miss. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. The Sea of Books Pavilion is the fastest to update. Chapter 4789. However, Qing Luo's expression didn't fluctuate at all when she met Ji Wuhua's eyes. Ji Wuhua's devilish smile froze for a moment. Following that, he took the initiative to walk towards Qing Luo. Every step he took, that was called enchanting. His long and narrow phoenix eyes were embellished with a captivating charm. Qing Luo. Who could drag this coquettish fox down? When a man became enchanting, there was nothing for a woman to do. Ji Wuhua walked to Yi Qing Luo's side and gave her an enchanting smile. Miss Yi, please stretch out your hand. Yi Qing Luo endured, and just as she was about to stretch out her hand, she was grabbed by Bloodbone Barbaric King. Bloodbone Barbaric King pulled Yi Qing Luo behind him and stared coldly at Ji Wuhua. Flower King, please conduct yourself with dignity. Ji Wuhua's eyes were smiling. His phoenix eyes were like a blossoming flame flower. This king hasn't done anything yet. Isn't Bone Lord making a big fuss out of nothing? While saying that, he threw a coquettish look at Yi Qing Luo. Miss Yi, don't you think so? Yi Qing Luo. She couldn't resist the urge to beat him up. What should she do? She stared at Ji Wuhua, took a deep breath and said word by word. Do you know that you look especially ugly? The word ugly caused Ji Wuhua's face, which was originally full of smiles, to stiffen. Following that, his enchanting expression broke down bit by bit. What did you say? Ji Wuhua's eyes widened as he gritted his teeth in anger. Yi Qing Luo smiled. I said you're ugly. Ji Wuhua. You're the ugly one. Your whole family is ugly. He was so good looking. In the entire God realm, there were so many women who wanted to throw themselves into his arms like moths to a flame. How could he be ugly? Absolutely intolerable. Enough. Feng Zhangqing held down Ji Wuhua with a slight headache. Don't argue about such a meaningless topic. Let Miss Yi take a look at her body first. Ji Wuhua slapped Feng Zhangqing's hand away. How could this be a meaningless topic? She is questioning my charm. Who am I? I am the most charming man in the God realm, Flower King. He was gnashing his teeth as he spoke. Then he flung his sleeves forcefully. What are you looking at? Do you really think that I, the Flower King, would do that? Feng Zhangqing still wanted to say something. Yi Qing Luo interrupted them. I'm fine. I agreed to check your pulse just to reassure my grandfather. Since Flower King doesn't want to, there's no need to trouble yourself. She hooked her pink lips and helped Master Feng to sit down. Grandpa, I'm really fine. Don't you believe me? You don't want me to check your pulse, but I still want to. Ji Wuhua was rebellious. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo had rejected him, a famous doctor in the God realm, to check her pulse, Ji Wuhua's heart sank. He immediately grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm. Yi Qing Luo. She suddenly comprehended the ability to control Ji Wuhua. Ji Wuhua wanted to check her pulse. Yi Qing Luo naturally wouldn't reject it. She didn't eat the pills that the 5 people fed her. Naturally, his body would not show any signs of being poisoned. But, when Ji Wuhua's fingers pressed on her pulse, his handsome face, which originally had a carefree expression on it, immediately stiffened and became serious. His pair of red phoenix eyes were opened wide, staring at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong with Qing Luo's body? Feng Zhangqing got anxious. No. Ji Wuhua swallowed his saliva. She is pregnant. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. The Sea of Books Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 4790. Pulse of Pregnancy. Feng family patriarch was stunned. When he reacted, his face suddenly turned pale. His eyes were full of shock and disbelief. He looked at Yi Qing Luo, his voice was trembling. Qing Luo, you have already. His line of sight slid down. It landed on Yi Qing Luo's belly. Yi Qing Luo. Her hands subconsciously touched her belly. Pulse of pregnancy? She was pregnant? No, there should be no such possibility. She was also a doctor, although a doctor didn't treat himself. But it was impossible for her not to know this kind of thing. But her subconscious action had already shown everything. Feng family patriarch clenched his fists. Qing Luo, you are already married? No. She and Dmo Xian hadn't had the time to get married yet. Who is that man? Feng family patriarch was furious when he heard that. His face was slightly distorted. Not married. But pregnant? What kind of bad man had his granddaughter been cheated by? Feng family patriarch was so angry that his face flushed. His rough but warm big palm held Yi Qing Luo's little hand tightly. Grandfather will definitely seek justice for you. Give birth to this child. Grandfather will raise it for you. Yiqing Luo was touched and felt funny. Did she look like a person who would be cheated by a scumbag? Grandfather, I'm not pregnant. Yiqing Luo explained. You don't have to lie to grandfather. Grandfather knows your pain. Feng family patriarch's old eyes were red. Grandfather will definitely catch that man for you. Grandfather, I'm really not pregnant. Yiqing Luo had some headache and explained again. However, Feng family patriarch had an expression of I know, I understand. Don't listen, I don't listen. Yiqing Luo. Grandfather, what do you understand? Can't you listen to her explanation for once? She felt even more headache. She suddenly pulled out the hand that was held tightly by Feng family patriarch, stood up and kicked Ji Wuhua unexpectedly. Ji Wuhua staggered. Yiqing Luo grabbed his arm from behind. She lifted her foot and kicked him in the back, kicking him to the front of Feng family patriarch. You give me a good explanation. Ji Wuhua was caught off guard by the kick. His upper body staggered and fell on the table. His handsome face immediately darkened. What are you doing? This was the first time in Ji Wuhua's life that he had been put into such a difficult position by a woman. Yiqing Luo sneered. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm already giving you face by not killing you. Ji Wuhua covered his aching stomach. It was just a joke. Is there a need to be so violent? Yiqing Luo gave a fake smile. Oh, you can't lift it. Who can't lift it? Ji Wuhua was furious. Yiqing Luo smiled. Oh, I was just joking. How can you make such a joke? I have 3,000 beauties in my palace. If you make such a joke, what will happen to my beauties? Ji Wuhua was exasperated. You can joke around, why can't I? Yiqing Luo sneered. Hurry up and explain, I don't have time to joke around with you. The conversation between the two. The people around him understood what he meant. Feng family patriarch's face changed slightly. What Flower King said just now was just a joke. Yes. Yiqing Luo nodded helplessly. How can I not know my own body? Feng family patriarch grabbed the teacup and threw it at Ji Wuhua's face. How dare you make such a joke? Do you think my Qing Luo doesn't care about her reputation? Waste 7th Missy. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Will continue to be updated in the Sea of Books Pavilion. There are no advertisements on the website, so please collect and recommend the Sea of Books Pavilion. Waste 7th Missy. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Waste 7th Missy. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Chapter 4791. Ji Wuhua was hit in the face by the tea, and more than half of his handsome face was soaked in the tea. He quickly covered his face. A gentleman uses his mouth instead of his fists. I am after all one of the 3 kings, Flower King. How can I lose my face when you treat me like this? How can you make this kind of joke? Feng family's patriarch was so angry that his beard was blowing. Fortunately, there are no outsiders around. If Qing Luo's reputation is ruined, I will beat you up. Ji Wuhua rubbed his face and felt wronged. What reputation? Your granddaughter has no reputation for a long time. What nonsense are you talking about? Feng family's patriarch grabbed the things on the table and threw them at Ji Wuhua. Ji Wuhua quickly dodged and continued. If you don't believe me, ask your granddaughter if she has a wild man outside. Feng family's patriarch's face froze slightly as he thought of Yiqing Luo's action of covering her stomach subconsciously. This had obviously exposed something. He looked at Yiqing Luo cautiously and in a probing manner. He didn't know how to ask. According to Yiqing Luo's current age, she had reached the marriageable age, so marriage was inevitable. For so many years, he as her grandfather had not accompanied her by her side. He really didn't know how to ask about his granddaughter's feelings. Yiqing Luo stared at Ji Wuhua, that coquettish fox grandfather. She didn't know where he got the news that she already had someone in her heart. But in front of her grandfather, Yiqing Luo had no intention to hide. After this matter is over, I will bring him to see you. After a pause, she held Feng family's patriarch's hand and smiled slightly. Grandfather, don't worry, he is very good to me. Feng family's patriarch looked at Yiqing Luo's smiling face. and his old eyes turned slightly red. He patted the back of Yi Qingluo's hand lightly. It's grandfather who didn't find you early and didn't do his duty as a grandfather to choose a suitable man for you. He sighed softly. Grandfather believes that Qingluo's foresight is not bad. Yi Qingluo smiled. Well, my foresight is different from mother. His feelings for me are even deeper than Bloodbone Barbaric King's feelings for mother. The handsome face of the Bloody Bone Barbarian King, who was suddenly called out, blushed. He rubbed his nose in embarrassment. Why are you suddenly talking about me? Yi Qingluo beamed. I'm praising you for my mother. Your love is stronger than gold. The barbaric Bloodbone King pursed his lips and did not speak. He still looked cold and unfeeling. However, his eyes, which had clearly softened, revealed his true emotions. Feng Clan Master took a glance at the barbaric Bloodbone King. Finally, he patted the back of Yi Qingluo's hand again. If you say so, grandfather can rest assured. Just how deep was Bone Lord's feelings for Feng Ge? As an elder, he saw it all. Thousands of years had passed. Bone Lord still loved his daughter deeply. Patriarch Feng was an experienced person. Naturally, he could tell. When Feng Ge was mentioned, there was a clear change in Bone Lord's gaze. Especially, Bone Lord's feelings towards Qingluo. He had treated Qingluo as his own daughter, doting and caring. A thought formed in his mind. But he didn't say it now. Instead, he shifted the topic back to Yi Qingluo's kidnapping. Qingluo, do you know who took you away? Feng family's patriarch's expression gradually turned solemn. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. The Sea of Books Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 4792. Yi Qingluo pursed her pink lips slightly. Her long and narrow eyes rippled with a strange light. I know, she said, but those people should have no chance to speak now. Feng family patriarch was stunned. You killed them? And escaped? No. Yi Qingluo shook her head. Those people I saw were about 40 to 50 years old, and each of them looked like high-ranking officials. Feng family patriarch quickly looked at Feng Pe. Feng Pe understood and walked out of the room. After a while, she walked over with a few portraits. When the portraits were opened, Yi Qingluo recognized the people in the paintings. They were the people she saw in the secret room. Grandfather, have you found out? Yi Qingluo pointed at the people in the paintings. Among the dozens of paintings, 5 people were selected and placed on the table. Feng family patriarch's gaze swept through the people in the portraits one by one, clenched his fists, gritted his teeth and said angrily, It's really the 5 aristocrats. You're used to a comfortable life. How dare you touch my Feng family's people? 5 aristocrats? Yi Qingluo didn't understand the hierarchy in the God realm. Feng family patriarch explained briefly. In the God realm, there were a total of 3 major clans. The royal family was the leader. That was the Emperor of God Emperor and a series of clans. The aristocrats were the second class. There were 5 aristocrats in the God realm, whose power was second only to the royal family. Especially now, the Emperor of God Emperor had passed away, and the acting Emperor of God Emperor couldn't get the inheritance of the Emperor of God, so he could only temporarily take up the position. The power of the 5 aristocrats was even greater. The last clan was also the most common force in the God realm, Ping Clan. And the 5 people Yi Qingluo saw in the secret room. They were all extraordinary people in the 5 aristocrats. There was a patriarch of a certain aristocrat. There was also a certain aristocrat in power, or a certain brother of a certain aristocrat, etc. In this way, those 5 people's status in the God realm can only be high and not low. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers stroked her chin. What treasure does the Feng family have? Worth the 5 aristocrats to take such a big risk? Feng family patriarch's expression changed slightly, hesitated for a moment and sighed softly. These are all rumors. Rumor? Yi Qingluo was puzzled. After Xiao Ge passed away, there were rumors that Xiao Ge left a treasure in the Feng family. Feng clan master sighed. Little Gu is the emperor of the emperors. No one in the divine realm is her opponent. What she has is also the strongest thing in the world. Therefore, there is a rumor that whoever obtains the items of the previous divine emperor will be able to command the world, obtain the divine emperor's inheritance, and become the next divine emperor. Yiqing Luo nodded thoughtfully. So, the 5 people from the 5 great clans want to get that thing and become the next emperor of God. Everyone wants to become a divine emperor, Feng clan master said helplessly. But Xiaogu died so suddenly, how could she leave anything behind? Those people have already been blinded by this rumor and won't even think about it. Even the acting divine emperor, who is related to the former divine emperor by blood, couldn't get the divine emperor's inheritance. How could he get the divine emperor's inheritance just because of one thing? Yiqing Luo's little hand held Feng clan master's hand tightly. Never try to wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Maybe they know this, but they just don't want to believe it. Feng clan master sighed and shook his head, full of helplessness and exhaustion. Feng family has explained this rumor countless times, but it's useless, so Feng family is too lazy to explain. Waste 7th Miss. Overlord, love gently. The correct chapter will continue to be updated in the Sea of Books Pavilion. There are no advertisements in the website. Please collect and recommend the Sea of Books Pavilion. Waste 7th Miss. Overlord, love gently. The correct chapter will continue to be updated in the Sea of Books Pavilion. There are no advertisements in the website. Please collect and recommend the Sea of Books Pavilion. Chapter 4793. But now because of this unreasonable rumor, it hurt my granddaughter. Feng family's patriarch's eyes gradually gathered into a whirlpool, deep and gloomy. In any case, I must ask for an explanation from the 5 aristocrats. Yiqing Luo's hands clenched the old man's slightly rough hand. Her eyebrows were stained with some light softness. In her heart, there was a spread of warmth. It made her temperament seem to be much gentler. The feeling of being protected by family was really good. All along, fighting alone, she lived in a state of tension every day. Later, she came to this strange world, met a group of brothers around her, met Xian and fell in love with each other. She was finally no longer alone. But friendship, love, after all, could not replace family. She could feel her grandfather's love for her from the bottom of his heart. At this time, he was really angry for her. He wanted to stand up for her. Obviously, the two had only met for a few hours. Obviously, it had not been verified that she was Feng Ji's daughter. He had already treated her sincerely. This might be family. The smile between Yiqing Luo's eyebrows became more and more brilliant, one hand around her grandfather's shoulder, the whole person hugged him. Grandfather, you are so good to me. Feng family's patriarch was startled by the sudden hug. Then his eyes were slightly red. He reached out and hugged the girl's delicate body. You are my granddaughter. If I don't treat you well, who else can I treat well too? Yiqing Luo chuckled. There was a shallow smile between her eyebrows. The two of them hugged for a moment. The girl moved away and sat next to Feng family's patriarch. Grandfather, is there anyone or force that the 5 aristocrats are afraid of? Feng family's patriarch frowned. Royal family. Royal family? Yiqing Luo slightly condensed for a moment. Royal family, which forces are included? Feng family's patriarch heard Yiqing Luo's implied meaning. You mean, this time the 5 aristocrats united to kidnap you is because of someone behind the scenes? Yes. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment as her eyes congealed slightly. When I was imprisoned in the secret chamber, I saw a black-robed man. Those 5 aristocratic families were extremely respectful towards that person. She paused for a moment before continuing. It's very likely that the people from the 5 great aristocratic families have already died at the hands of the black-robed man. This was what she had said from the very beginning. Those people probably wouldn't have the chance to speak anymore. That black-robed man probably wouldn't let those 5 people off. After all, he was a traitor. When Patriarch Feng heard this, his eyes suddenly condensed. Feng Chongqing and Ji Wuhua both stood up involuntarily. The faces of the few of them were filled with horror. To be able to make the 5 great nobility clans act so respectfully towards him, and not worry about him killing an important member of the 5 great nobility clans. Other than the imperial family, there was no one else. However, the royal family. The royal family had never done such a thing. The Feng family is a royal family force. After all, the Feng family produced a divine emperor, Feng Ge. The current acting emperor was also a member of the Feng family. Then the other royal family forces were the families that had some blood relationship with the Feng family. Those forces had to rely on the Feng family to survive. How could they possibly do such an act of colluding with the 5 great nobility clans to kidnap people from the Feng family? Moreover, the target was the Feng family's treasures? Who in the royal family didn't know that the Feng family didn't have the so-called treasures? So, it might not necessarily be the royal family's force. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment and said, "Does the God realm also have dark forces?" 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect my love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect my love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect my love. Chapter 4794. There was no absolute light in the world. Where there is light, there must be darkness. Even the God realm was not spared. In Yiqing Luo's mind, the image of the person behind the scenes of the secluded palace surfaced. Her eyes darkened slightly. For example, does your God realm have a force called the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? Feng family patriarch frowned. No? When has such a force appeared in the divine realm? Yiqing Luo recalled every single time she had clashed with the Palace of Seclusion. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had completely treated her as a vessel for the divine phoenix profound heart jade. In addition, they controlled her and made her their puppet. It was as if he wanted to get some clues from her. The Abyss Palace had long known her identity. It was very likely that the goal of Dark Shadow Palace was to find the so-called treasure of the Feng family from her. She had seen the people behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness and had fought them before. However, when he faced the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness and the black-robed man outside the secret room, he felt like he was about to die. The feeling was completely different. The black-robed man was not the mastermind behind the Dark Palace. However, it was highly possible that it had a close relationship with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly as she narrated the matter of her crossing hands with the Palace of Seclusion in a concise and comprehensive manner. What she said was very simple. But that was the point. After all, the God realm was far superior to the other 2 realms. For the heaven domain, the land domain, or even the so-called low-class nirvana domain. What happened? Naturally, the immortal realm would not know, unless it was too big of a commotion. It affected the balance of the 3 realms. Only then would they pay attention to it. However, he would never take it to heart. Even if the so-called prophecy back then was that the Nirvana realm was almost destroyed. Or perhaps it was the war between the heaven and earth realms, which caused the people to have no way of making a living, and it felt like the end of the world. Not even the God realm had interfered. It was clear that the immortal realm did not care about the matters of the lower realms. If it wasn't for the fact that the acting God Emperor wanted to meet Yiqing Luo this time round, and specially instructed the God Guardian squad to invite her over, it was likely that the God realm wouldn't show its face even once. Not to mention the God realm. The so-called heavenly Tao that maintained the balance of the 3 realms never showed itself. Yiqing Luo didn't know how to ridicule these people. It was said that with great power came great responsibility. They held high positions and were the gods in the hearts of all profound practitioners. He didn't care much about the matters of the lower worlds. Of course, the upper realm became gods. It was because of their talent and ability. Indeed, he had no obligation to care about the life and death of the lower realms. It was his duty not to help. It was a favor to help. Everything depended on the will of the immortal realm. Only Yiqing Luo was someone from the lower realm. He couldn't help but feel a little indignant. After listening to Yiqing Luo's words, Feng family patriarch's expression froze slightly. His brows were tightly knitted, and he was not angry. What kind of inferior force dares to touch my Feng family's people? From Yi Qing Luo's description, the other party clearly knew her identity long ago. In other words, he was deliberately targeting his Feng family. Grandfather will definitely get to the bottom of this matter. Feng family master's eyes flashed coldly. The Feng family has not been involved in worldly affairs for many years, but it doesn't mean that the Feng family has declined. He waved his hand and glanced at Granny Feng. Call the acting god emperor back. Granny Feng was stunned. Lord Patriarch, the acting god emperor is focused on the affairs of the god realm. I'm afraid he won't. It's okay, you can rest assured and call him back. Ji Wuhua waved his hand. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please keep your love for me. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please keep your love for me. The Sea of Books Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 4795. Just tell him that the person he wants to see is in the Feng family, and he will come back. Granny Feng glanced at Patriarch Feng. He nodded his head. Then she left. Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes wide in confusion. Acting God Emperor? Oh, by the way, I haven't told you. The acting Divine Emperor you want to see is your little uncle. Ji Wuhua said from the side. Little uncle? She suddenly had a little uncle who was the acting Emperor God? His status had risen by a notch again. But, thinking about it carefully, it made sense. Feng Ge was her mother, the emperor of the former God Emperor. The acting God Emperor was also chosen from the Feng family. Naturally, he had a close relationship with the Feng family. Your uncle is always busy dealing with the affairs in the divine realm. He hasn't come back for hundreds of years. I am used to it. Master Feng sighed and suddenly thought of something. By the way, what did the Flower King say? The person he wanted to see. What did he mean? Yi Qing Luo rushed to explain in front of Ji Wuhua. I came to God Realm because the acting God Emperor wanted to see me, so he specially sent the God Guardian squad to the lower realm to fetch me. Otherwise, based on my strength, there's no way I can appear in God Realm. If Ji Wuhua were to explain, he was afraid that his mouth would spit out some nonsense that would cause people to misunderstand. He wants to see you? Patriarch Feng frowned. Why does he want to see you? Is it because he knows your identity, so he asked you to come to the divine realm to verify your identity? Well, I am not sure. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. She hadn't seen the acting God Emperor yet. She didn't know why the acting God Emperor wanted to see her. Patriarch Feng looked at Ji Wuhua. She came from the 100-Flower Garden. Did the acting God Emperor order you to put her in the 100-Flower Garden? The acting God Emperor didn't say anything. He just asked the Divine Guard team to let me arrange a place for her. Ji Wuhua touched his palms with the back of his hands, looking as if he was racking his brains to think for her sake. She is a person from the lower realm. If those old fools find out that she has come to the immortal realm, won't they tear her apart? No matter how I look at it, the 100-Flower Garden is the safest. Who would suspect her origins if she was placed in the 100-Flower Gardens? Feng Clan Master. This reason is really irrefutable. The acting Divine Emperor has some matters to deal with recently. Patriarch, don't worry. Feng Zhongqing comforted her gently. The acting Divine Emperor will come to meet Miss Yi after he finishes his business. Business. Might as well just let him live with his work. What does he need us relatives for? Feng Clan Master spat fiercely. He is your master. You go and tell him that if he doesn't return to the Feng mansion within today, he will be punished. He doesn't need to come back anymore. Feng Zhongqing still wanted to say something. Feng Clan Master glared at him angrily. He slapped the table and stood up. Let's go to the 5 great aristocrats. I want to question them. They kidnapped my Feng family's granddaughter. Are they trying to rebel? Grandfather. Yi Qing Luo hurriedly held onto his arm as she spoke in a gentle voice. They don't know my identity, and if we were to go over rashly, it would only raise their vigilance. Moreover, how are you going to explain my identity to them? The Feng family was, after all, the legitimate bloodline of the royal family. It was also the family of the destined divine emperor. No matter what it was, it would receive great attention. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect your love. The Book C Pavilion is the fastest to update. Chapter 4796. A Feng family's granddaughter suddenly popped out. The daughter of the former divine emperor. Who would believe that? There would be people who would doubt the purpose of the Feng family. Therefore, they wanted her to restore the identity of the Feng family's granddaughter, the biological daughter of the former divine emperor. There must be an appropriate time. Obviously, it would not be now. Yiqing Luo could think of it. Feng family patriarch could naturally think of it. His old face sank, clenching his fists unwillingly. Are we going to let it go like this? He, the dignified Feng family's patriarch, couldn't even bully his own granddaughter back? Did he still have the face to be her grandfather? We can first inquire about the news about those 5 people to determine if they are really dead. Yiqing Luo smiled and held Feng family patriarch's arm, helping him to sit down again. If those 5 people are really dead, there is no need for us to go again. Feng family patriarch nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, you are thoughtful. He snapped his fingers. Soon 2 secret guards appeared. Feng family patriarch arranged things. All right, grandfather, since I was kidnapped last night, you haven't had a rest. I will accompany you to rest for half an hour. Yiqing Luo didn't give Feng family patriarch a chance to refuse. Her long eyes curved and her smile was bright. I will accompany you to rest. I am a little tired too. Feng family patriarch originally wanted to chat with her for a while. Hearing the latter half of her sentence, he immediately dispelled the idea. He quickly got up. Yes, yes, you were kidnapped last night. You must have not had a good rest until now. Grandfather will go to rest with you. One old and one young, holding each other, walked towards the direction of the bedroom. Bloodbone Barbarian King's face was cold, staring at Yiqing Luo and Feng family patriarch's back without blinking. His eyes were deep like a whirlpool, surging wave after wave of waves. A hand was put on his shoulder. Bloodbone Barbarian King's face turned cold, and he suddenly buckled the wrist behind him. Immediately, he buckled the wrist behind him. Ayaya, Bone Lord, don't be so rough. A frivolous voice, with a bit of artificial pain. Ji Wuhua nimbly withdrew his hand and dodged the barbaric Bloodbone King's attack. Did you think of the former divine emperor when you saw Miss Ye's back? Ji Wuhua looked as if he had seen through the truth. He reached out his hand to hook the barbaric Blood King's shoulder. The barbaric Bloodbone King glanced at him coldly. Ji Wuhua withdrew his hand resentfully. Don't be so fierce. I just want to know some gossip. He paused and carefully observed the barbaric Bloodbone King's expression. Seeing that the cold face was emotionless, he plucked up his courage and asked, Rumor has it that Bone Lord died in the hands of the former divine emperor? Why is he with Miss Yi now? As he guessed, he couldn't help but fill in the blanks in his mind. Could it be that, your death back then, your soul dispersing and your ashes were all fake? In fact, the former divine emperor wanted you to be Miss Ye's father, right? The barbaric Bloodbone King coldly glanced at him. Following that, he walked towards the direction which Yiqing Luo had left with an expressionless face. Ji Wuhua didn't get an answer, and hurriedly chased after him. Bone Lord, what do you mean by that look? You haven't answered my question, don't go. Wuhua. Feng Zhangqing held on to Ji Wuhua with a slight headache. Stop fooling around, Bone Lord is in a bad mood. Now on account that this is the Feng family, I won't haggle with you. If you annoy Bone Lord, even if you and I join hands, we won't be his opponent. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please keep your love away. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please keep your love away. The Sea of Books Pavilion is the fastest to update. Chapter 4797. So powerful. Ji Wuhua's eyes lit up. That makes me want to fight with him even more. Feng Zhangqing. Fine, if you are beaten to death, I will not stop you. Ji Wuhua. No, you have to stop me symbolically, to give me a way out. Feng Zhangqing had long been accustomed to his friend's reckless behavior. He waved Ji Wuhua away. I will go to the acting god emperor first and bring the patriarch's words. If you want to stay in the Feng family, be careful and don't talk nonsense. He looked around and lowered his voice. Bone Lord is not to be offended. That Miss Yi, you should also be careful. Jokes are jokes, but there is a limit. Alright, I know, don't be like an old mother. Ji Wuhua waved his hand impatiently. Yi Qing Luo and Patriarch Feng went to Patriarch Feng's room together. Yi Qing Luo sat on the soft chair beside the bed, leaning against the headboard, and closed her eyes slightly. One hand was still holding her grandfather's hand. Patriarch Feng originally didn't want Yi Qing Luo to work so hard and sleep sitting like this. But he was worried about leaving Yi Qing Luo alone in the room. After what happened last night, Yi Qing Luo tried every means to persuade Patriarch Feng before he agreed. Even if Patriarch Feng was strong, but his age was after all old. After a tiring night until now, he was indeed tired. But perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo was by his side. The hands that held each other conveyed the warmth of both sides. About the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. Then Patriarch Feng fell into a deep sleep. Yi Qing Luo waited for a while. After confirming that Patriarch Feng had fallen asleep, then she carefully pulled out her hand. She walked out of Patriarch Feng's room looking back 3 times. Just as she reached the door, she saw Bloodbone Barbarian King standing outside. She greeted him with a smile. Aren't you going to rest? No need. His face was cold. Are you sure to stay in the Feng family? Yi Qing Luo glanced at the closed door. She smiled and shook her head. Shortly after, he strode forward. Bloodbone Barbarian King followed closely. Grandpa has been alone for so long. He finally met me. I may not leave the Feng family in a short time. She smiled. However, I shouldn't stay here for a long time. This is his mother's home. She wanted to stay here and accompany her grandfather. He also wanted to see this place where his mother grew up. But she also has her mission to complete. Her brothers and sisters in the lower realm were still waiting for her to return. It was impossible to stay here and live a comfortable life protected by the Feng family. You should be very familiar with this place, right? Yi Qing Luo suddenly turned her head and looked at Bloodbone Barbaric King. Mother's childhood sweetheart, he must be very familiar with the place where Mother grew up. A glimmer of light flashed across the barbaric Bloodbone King's calm eyes. An awkward expression flashed across his face. Yi Qing Luo caught it and the smile in her eyes deepened. I don't know anything about the Feng Manor at all. Can you bring me around to take a look around? The places where Mother had stayed in the past, and the things that Mother had done? The barbaric Bloodbone King wanted to refuse. But when he met the young girl's smiling eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine, like thousands of flowers blooming. The words of refusal were at the tip of his tongue, but he couldn't say it out. He sighed softly and finally spat out a word, all right. Bloodbone Barbarian King's understanding of Fenggu was already deep in his bones. Even if thousands of years had passed, he still remembered everything about Fenggu clearly. Not a single bit, not missing out. As if it was just something that happened yesterday. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please collect your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash, Overlord, please collect your love. The Sea of Books Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 4798. One action. One sentence. She remembered it clearly. Bloodbone Savage King was no longer in his bashful state. In the end, he fell into the past. Yi Qing Luo listened very seriously. He seemed to be able to imagine the scene at that time from the words of the barbaric Bloodbone King. It was like she was one step closer to her mother. Just like that, 4 hours had passed. The sky gradually darkened. Yi Qing Luo asked Bloodbone Savage King to bring her to the kitchen. Granny Feng had not returned yet. Other than the secret guards in the Feng Manor, there wasn't even a servant who could handle things. Yi Qing Luo also wanted to take this opportunity to cook a meal for her grandfather. Bloodbone Savage King had no intention to stop her. When Patriarch Feng woke up, he followed the secret guards and found his way to the kitchen. He saw the barbaric Bloodbone King leaned against the door of the kitchen with his arms crossed in front of his chest. His deep eyes stared unblinkingly at the young girl who was busy in the kitchen. That serious and deep look. Patriarch Feng felt that. He was looking at another person through the young lady. He sighed faintly. That daughter of his was too stubborn. If she had chosen Bone Lord at that time, presumably, their family could still live happily. Unfortunately, there was no if. This sigh attracted the attention of the man outside the door. When Bloodbone Savage King looked over, Patriarch Feng immediately made a hushed gesture and shook his head at him. Bloodbone Savage King didn't say anything. He slowly moved away a little. Hence, the kitchen became Bloodbone Savage King stood on one side and Patriarch Feng stood on the other, looking at the young lady who was busy in the kitchen. Both of their gazes were kind and gentle. This house finally had the taste of home. Another half an hour had passed. Fengshi followed the fragrance and came over. Yiqing Luo then noticed that there were two door gods squatting outside the door. Her eyes were filled with joy. She took off her robe and washed her hands. You came just in time. Help me send the dishes to the hall and get ready for dinner. Saying that, she bent over to carry Fengshi in her arms and walked out of the kitchen. The two men naturally had no objections. Yiqing Luo carried Fengshi in her arms and sat down in the main hall to wait. She didn't cook a lot of food, but it wasn't little either. When the family was seated around the table, a hearty voice came from outside the door. What's this smell? It's so fragrant. Looks like I came back at the right time. Then a few figures walked in. The person in the lead was dressed in a bright yellow brocade robe and had an imposing appearance. When he strode over, he brought with him an invisible pressure. His footsteps were like the wind. One look and you could tell that he had the aura of a superior. Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto that person's face. He had good facial features and was extraordinarily handsome. That face, he looked really familiar. He could see that she bore some resemblance to his mother. This person, he should be her mother's younger brother, her little uncle, the current acting divine emperor, Feng Liqiong. When Feng Liqiong's vision met Yiqing Luo's, his pupils shrank and the smile on his face froze. Sis. Following that, he seemed to have reacted as he patted the back of his hand hard. No, this is my niece Qing Luo? He walked over quickly as his eyes gazed deeply at the young lady with unconcealable joy. Feng Liqiong had just reached in front of Yiqing Luo and was about to reach out to hug her. But she was stopped by Patriarch Feng's outstretched hand. Don't scare the child. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. The Sea of Books Pavilion updates the fastest. Chapter 4799. Immediately, Feng family's patriarch looked towards Yiqing Luo. This is your little uncle who doesn't stay at home. Although he is the acting god emperor, he has a bad temper. It doesn't matter if he is here or not. If you don't want to call him uncle, then don't. This was the official ridicule from her grandfather. Feng Liqiong immediately objected. Father, that's not nice of you. She is my niece, so she has to call me little uncle. He smiled widely and opened his arms towards Yiqing Luo. I've been waiting for you, my niece, for too long. Be a good girl. Call me little uncle. Feng family's patriarch slapped his arm away. You know you're back to see your niece, but you don't even know to prepare a gift. Is there any uncle like you? You still have the cheek to let the child call you? Of course I have prepared. Feng Liqiong's fingers shook. A piece of jade appeared in his palm. The translucent white jade shone with a profound light that flickered like lightning. Sound transmission stone. Ji Wuhua cried out exaggeratedly. The acting god emperor really dotes on this niece of yours. He actually gave his sound transmission stone to her. Yiqing Luo stared at that piece of jade. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not knowing what she was thinking. Feng family's patriarch immediately touched her. Take it, it's rare to get something from him. Yiqing Luo reached out and took the jade. The jade was cool like water in her hand. It felt good, smooth and delicate. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose as she smiled at Feng Liqiong. Thank you, little uncle. The door opened wide. The moonlight shone like water. shone on the young lady's gorgeous face. The young lady's brows were curved, her long and narrow eyes were also curved. It was obvious that she was very happy. That face was imprinted in Feng Liqiang's eyes. Made him momentarily. He recalled the calm and indifferent face in his memory. Really very similar. Why are you in a daze? Didn't you hear Qing Luo calling you? Feng family's patriarch slapped Feng Liqiang's shoulder. Feng Liqiang suddenly regained her senses and quickly smiled. I'm just too happy. I've waited for so long to hear you call me little uncle. And now I finally hear it. Feng clan master glanced at him. Find a place to sit. As he sat down, he was still nagging discontentedly. Qing Luo had specially prepared a meal for me alone. But you've come at the right time, to be able to eat the meal personally cooked by Qing Luo. Feng Liqiang's eyes lit up. My niece made it herself? I must have a good taste. He laughed heartily as he sat down. Feng Zhangqing and Ji Wuhua, who followed behind him, also took their seats. Yiqing Luo slowly sat down as her gaze fell onto the voice transmission stone in her palm. She gently touched the sound transmission stone with her slender and fair fingertips. That lightning-like profound light dispersed like water ripples. It was very magical. This voice transmission stone is your little uncle's voice transmission stone. Which means no matter where you are in the God realm, as long as you shout little uncle into the voice transmission stone, he will be able to know your location, and you can contact him anytime. Feng family's patriarch saw her loving look and explained. In future, if you have any problems, look for your little uncle. After all, he's an acting God Emperor. If you meet with any danger in the God realm, ask your little uncle to rush over to protect you. Father, I'm an acting God Emperor. There are so many things waiting for me to settle. How can you let me be at your beck and call? Feng Liqiang immediately shouted out. But his tone suddenly changed as a pair of narrow phoenix eyes looked at Yiqing Luo with a smile. Trashy seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect your love. Trashy seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect your love. Chapter 4800. But on account of my cute and charming little niece, I will reluctantly agree. Feng family patriarch raised his hand and slowly put it down. From their interaction, Yiqing Luo could tell. Their relationship was actually very good. Even if they rarely met. Even if Feng Liqiang was busy with work. But the interaction between the two of them, it was very intimate. It was totally different from before when Feng family patriarch talked about the acting God Emperor. His tone was impatient. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes were rippling with a faint light. Her vision was fixed on Feng family patriarch for a moment. Immediately, her pink lips curled up with a bright smile. Thank you, uncle. I will take good care of your gift and carry it with me. Feng Liqiang smiled lightly. As long as Qing Luo likes it. Come and try the dishes that Qing Luo personally made. Feng family patriarch looked at the table full of dishes and felt a little hungry. He picked up the bamboo chopsticks and picked some food. The moment it entered his mouth, his face revealed a surprised look. Qing Luo, your culinary skills are amazing. The dishes that Yiqing Luo made were all common home dishes in the lower realm. Ordinary ingredients. But the food that she made was completely extraordinary. In addition, the ingredients in the God realm were nourished by the heaven and earth's spiritual qi. The food that she made was even more fragrant and delicious. Feng family patriarch's voice just fell. The others immediately raised their bamboo chopsticks and began to sweep. This meal was very enjoyable. The entire hall was filled with laughter and cheers. It was very pleasant. Yiqing Luo looked at the scene in front of her. The tenderness between her brows deepened. It wasn't that she hadn't eaten such a joyous meal before. But, for the first time, she sat at the same table with her own relatives, eating together harmoniously. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes slightly, concentrating on the cold jade in her palm. Her vision slowly fell onto Feng Liqiang. Her slender fingers curled up one by one, holding the jade in her palm. The smile at the corner of his mouth deepened a little. Qing Luo keeps staring at me. Don't you think that your uncle is very handsome? Feng Liqiang noticed Yiqing Luo's gaze and looked at her. Yiqing Luo nodded. Yes, little uncle and mother are quite similar. Feng Liqiang laughed heartily. In terms of resemblance, you're the real one. You're practically carved from the same mold as my sister. Yiqing Luo curved her charming eyes. Then the relationship between little uncle and mother must be very good. Of course. Feng Liqiang put down her chopsticks. I've been by Big Sister's side since I was young. Big Sister taught me how to cultivate, taught me how to be a person, taught me everything. He laughed and laughed. He seemed to have sunk into his memories. That pair of long and narrow almond-shaped eyes seemed a little empty and unfocused. If it wasn't for that time, Big Sister, she wouldn't have. Feng Liqiang murmured softly. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Patriarch Feng sternly. What nonsense are you talking in front of the child? Let's eat. Feng Liqiang seemed to suddenly come back to her senses. She rubbed her face and laughed. I'm babbling nonsense again. His gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. His deep gaze congealed on her for some time. His smile gradually faded as he solemnly said, if it wasn't for Big Sister, there wouldn't be the current me. Your mother is an amazing, amazing Big Sister. Yiqing Luo's eyes were gentle, and the smile on her pink lips was as tender as warm water. She looked at Feng Liqiang and nodded her head vigorously. I believe that mother will be an amazing mother. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please collect your love gently. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.